McMahon home run.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, that's what it sounded like last night. Fireworks were going off for the Colorado Rockies. Unfortunately, did not go the over. There was a push yesterday.
Damn you, Vegas.
And we got our money back, boys.
12 runs in total.
That's not a win.
Well, it depends where you bet. There's some places where if you push, you lose your money. Other places where if you push, you end up getting your money back. It just depends on where you go, house rules, all of that different stuff. Anyways, so the Rockies win last night, 8-4 against the St. Louis Cardinals. We knew this was going to happen. Like, this wasn't surprising to anybody that turned on the game that Erick Fedde got lit up, right?
It was fantasy that he was going to shove in that game.
He goes all of 3 innings, gives up 7 hits, rockets missiles everywhere, 6 earned runs. You heard the homers, 2 of those. Did have 5 strikeouts. Good on you, Fedde. Slider was playing well. That sweeper was out of the zone. Fortunately, the cutter was very much in the zone. Alex, the Cardinals have made this so much more difficult than it needed to be.
Why, man?
I look at the record, and listen, wins and losses, they can be misleading. Like, you look at...
There's no wins with Erick Fedde, so
you look at Paul Skeens, he's got a losing record. That's not representative of how he's pitched. The 3-10 record for Erick Fedde is pretty representative of how he's pitched so far this year.
Yeah.
What was your reaction to watching that game yesterday? All of the stuff that went into it. Where are we at right now?
I find myself, every time I turn the game on at the start of it, for the last 4 games, and I find myself thinking, I can't believe this guy is having another start for the Cardinals. And for the last 4 games, that's going off of 5 games ago where he gave up 7 runs in 3 2/3 against the Cubs. And then he goes out there for another start, 7 runs. Another start, can't get 2 innings. Another start, can't get 5 innings. And then this one, 6 3. Like, that's where I find myself at with Erick Fedde. Why is this man still starting games for the Cardinals? It sounds mean to say, but... you know what to expect. There's no turning the game on with hopes of winning when Erick Fedde is on the mound. Because you know there's going to be 5 runs scored in the first few innings. They're going to be utilizing their bullpen heavily, and you don't know if the offense is going to be able to push themselves back into this one. So that just seems where it's at right now with Erick Fedde. And if he gets another start before the trade deadline, I'm going to find myself saying the exact same thing. How is this man starting another game for the Cardinals? Because if you're trying to compete, like they said they were going into that game against Atlanta, like they said they were going in that game against the Cubs, then Erick Fedde he's not sniffing a start for the Cardinals.
I find it just frankly embarrassing that they continue to run him out there. And it's not good for him either, by the way, right? Like, Erick Fedde clearly knows he is just not right now. And is probably thinking, oh, man, I really got to go back out there again for another start. Because he's not able to figure this out here in St. Louis. And the fact that they did this coming off of what was an embarrassing performance on top of many that had previously been there when they were on Sunday Night Baseball against the Chicago Cubs, and that felt like, hey, this is the last straw. Well, they were, by the way, 1 game back of a playoff spot in the middle of a playoff race, and then the front office kind of sabotages this and says, no, it's about trade value. It's not about the playoffs. Let's continue to run him out there. And in his 2 starts, he has not been good. I cannot believe that they continue to run him back out there.
Yes, you can.
I can.
I find it very infuriating that they continue to run him back out there. He should not have been in the rotation after that start against the Cubs. He should not have made his last 2 starts here. It is frankly embarrassing that the Cardinals continue to run him out there.
Everything changed in that start that he had against the Tigers. That was the start of what we have since seen. That was May 20th. Before that, the start before that, the couple starts before were pretty darn good. Goes 9 innings, the complete game against the Nationals. Then he had 5 2/3 scoreless against the Philadelphia Phillies. Then he goes 5 innings, 4 earned runs against the Detroit Tigers. And in that game, he only had the 2 strikeouts. And since then, it's been an abject failure in every possible way. There have been 147 starters that have thrown at least 30 innings since May the 20th. Among those, again, 147 starters, Erick Fedde is 143rd in ERA at 7.1.
But you know what? Like, the next few starts after that May 20th game, like, I'm looking at it, they weren't pretty, but he found his way to navigate through it. Which, again, like, you're looking at it on paper, and he's like, oh, it was a good start for Erick Fedde. Watching the game, it's like, that was a disaster, and I don't know how he Houdini'd it. But if you're the Cardinals, I can understand continuing to put him out there because you're still finding ways to at least navigate through those crazy waters. And even that Cubs start on June 25th, it's like ugly start. Hopefully it was a blip. The next one against Pittsburgh, when he had those 7 runs and couldn't get through 4 or even 5 innings, but it was ugly. That's where it was like, okay, this is not a blip. We've basically run out of juice in Erick Fedde.
See, but that's the front office's perspective. What you're saying right there is exactly why they kept going back to him. Because they thought to themselves, well, it's been like less than ideal, but it's not that bad. And so then you see the start against the Cubs, where this is the first start against the Cubs, not the most recent one. He goes 3 2/3 innings, gives up the 7 earned runs. Bad start, right? Then he comes back out, 5 innings, bad start against the Pirates, but you're able to explain it and saying, it's only a couple of bad starts. Has the disastrous all-time bad start in that Cubs series at Wrigley, the Sunday ESPN game, where it's like, oh my God, he couldn't even get through 2 innings. And then he comes back out, and this is the start where they said, not really sure if we should be going to him. There was some internal disagreement, it seems like, on that. Do you go to McGreevy? Do you consider Steven Matz as an opener? Do you go back to Erick Fedde? They go back to Fedde. And he gives them 4 2/3 innings and gives up 3 earned runs. Gave them a chance to win. This is always the front office's perspective, right? Wasn't that bad. Basically, we're talking about 2 horrible starts, and every starter is allowed to have a couple of bad starts over the course of the season. So they go back to him against Atlanta. Looked a little bit better. Wasn't great. Looked a little bit better. And that's their perspective to give him this start against Colorado, which was horrible.
Yeah.
Again. And the truth of the matter is, dude, everything underneath the radar suggested this has been what he is all season long. This was the Houdini act that we went through with John Gant. And what did they decide with John Gant? This is horrible. We can't keep doing this. I remember Mo coming out that season and saying, this is not sustainable. What you guys are watching, I don't care what the ERA is. He will not continue to have success pitching the way that he has been. Too many walks, not enough strikeouts, giving up a ton of contact. That's not a good way to win. That's been Erick Fedde. He's in the bottom 3rd percentile, like bottom 3 percentile in strikeout rate on the season. Also in the bottom 20th percentile in walk rate on the season. You can't continue to have success that way. You can't. Not when you have this kind of profile. So it's been a disaster for a long time now with Fedde. They've been trying to make this thing work. They can't keep doing this. They can't. Like, at this point, you have to DFA him if there's nobody that's willing to give you anything for him via trade. The runway is gone. This has been a season of runway, and it's over for Erick Fedde. He today needs to either be waived, DFA'd, whatever you want to call, like the official terminology of it. He's got to go. He cannot start another game for the St. Louis Cardinals. That has to be determined. And it's too late to send any kind of a message that'll actually resonate with your fan base, but at least this sends a message where you're saying, hey, we tried it, it didn't work, we're going to go ahead and go a different direction. You can still work out a trade technically even after you DFA a guy. But right now, the first thing that you've got to do, there should be a press release that's sent out later on today thanking Erick Fedde for his services and saying he's been designated for assignment by the St. Louis Cardinals. It needs to be done, Alex.
Yeah. They did this with Dexter Fowler a while back where he was awful and it was like, look, it's not getting any better. We just need to DFA him. And I don't even think they DFA'd him, or maybe they DFA'd him and then moved him to the Angels.
They traded him
future.
In the offseason, yeah. They did this with Johnny Peralta. They did this, I believe, with Mike Leake, if I'm not mistaken. They did
Greg
this
Holland.
with Greg Holland as well. They've done this. Greg Holland was more money than what Erick Fedde is.
So bottom line is they've done this a lot to where they've looked at a player and they said, you've got nothing else to give us. We have other options. We need to find out what they have. Thanks for your service. Let's move on.
Absolutely.
You're not acquiring anything for Erick Fedde at the trade deadline. You're not even going to get a lottery pick or a lottery prospect for this guy because the team's not going to give that up for Erick Fedde. You're basically going to have to hold him into the deadline, hope somebody takes him, nobody will, and then say, now we got to DFA him. DFA him now, and then find somebody to put in his place for that start.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the path that they have to go. There's no value for him on the trade market because everybody's looking at the same thing that we are and saying, boy, I can peek under the hood and like not find anything that we really like. His extension's pretty good, 71st percentile on that. That doesn't lead to outs. So, and the other thing too, is because of the way that they have come out and basically said, wink, wink, not, boy, we'd really like McGreevy to take his spot. if I'm another team, why would I trade you anything, right?
No, yeah.
You're going to DFA him. You clearly want to make room for Michael McGreevy. So if you DFA him, he clears waivers, and you release him, I don't have to take on any of the less than $2 million that he's owed. You're paying that, and if I really want him, I'll go sign him to a major league minimum deal that is $200,000, $300,000 for the remainder of the season. So they have no leverage in this. They have to DFA him because they just don't have any move else that they can make with Erick Fedde.
Do you guys feel the same way about Miles Michaelis? We've had a few texts that come in and say, guys, don't forget about Miles Michaelis. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. Do you guys think they will or should do the same thing with Michaelis? Because maybe this is me lowering my standards. I get accused of that all the time. I don't feel the same way about Michaelis. I don't know that there's an obvious alternative to him right now.
I was going to say, you have no other guy who could start in that spot.
And B, even in his blow-up games, and listen, there have been plenty of them. He has not been good. I'm not trying to cape for Miles Michaelis, trust me. But even in his blow-up games, he at least is respectable to the point where he will get you a little deeper into the game, and he doesn't blow up your bullpen the same way that Erick Fedde has, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 or 5 times so far this season. So I do think the urgency that they have to act with on Michaelis is a little bit different to me.
Yeah, I agree. There's nobody else in your system right now that's ready to get starts at the major league level. If you want to go down the path, and I know we're going to get to him, Leahy, if you want to go down the path of maybe Graceffo, but Roby's not there, Matthews isn't there, Tinkens isn't there. So right now, Michaelis falls into the camp of, look, we just need somebody to eat innings for us until the end of the season. You're falling further and further out of this competitive push to be a playoff team. It's more important to get a McGreevy start in the rotation consistently and then just keep Michaelis there, unless you can acquire something at the deadline when you trade away Helsley of a young pitcher who could start at the majors. I doubt that's going to happen. I think you stick with Michaelis for the rest of the way.
If they believe that Kyle Leahy could handle the idea of building up and handle that workload to build up as a starter
last night.
Yeah, and if you go out there and start him, go 65-ish, he could be built up within 3 starts to be a 100-pitch pitcher probably. If they believe that he could handle that and the workload would be fine, because he hasn't thrown 140 innings in 3 years, and he's already up at 55-ish, so you would be adding onto that pretty significantly if you make him a starter for the home stretch. If they think he can handle that, I would just cut ties with Miles Michaelis, because you're not going to trade him, because he's just going to invoke the no-trade clause because he wants to stay. And if I keep him, I'm continuing to pay him no matter what. I'm not finding out any answers on anything for the future in that rotation spot. Or if I DFA him, I'm still paying him what I was doing, but I can at least try and get some answers in the second half of, okay, could Kyle Leahy be a starter for us? And yes, he doesn't have a full spring training to build up. He's building up on the fly, but you can get some data points on, hey, could this actually work? Is this something worth experimenting with in the offseason? And you don't even have to fill that 40-man spot if you don't want to for Miles Michaelis to quote-unquote add to payroll. So I think that is something they should explore. If they believe Leahy can be a starter and he's willing to build up on the fly right now, I think it's time to cut ties with Miles Michaelis.
Katie Wu just tweeted out, Cardinals are designated Erick Fedde for assignment.
Good. It was time.
Yep. I had to make sure. I raised my hand and I'm like, oh God, please don't be some type of troll account and I'm going to fall for it again. It wasn't. It's actually Katie Wu.
Yeah. Breaking news. According to Katie Wu of The Athletic, the Cardinals are designating Erick Fedde for assignment. It's long overdue. It's something that had to be done. They clearly could not find a suitor for him. And honestly, what this does is it buys you time. It buys you time twofold. One, it buys you time to make a decision on a potential trade if there's anybody out there that wants him, because this does not mean he's been released. This means that he goes through waivers, but the Cardinals could still technically pull him back if there is somebody that says, hey, we'll trade you future considerations. We'll trade you a player to be named later, whatever it may be. And then they take on Erick Fedde's salary. So you don't actually end up getting stuck with the contract. So I still think that's in play. I'm not totally sure that Fedde will end up being, quote unquote, released by the Cardinals. I think there might be a team out there that says, we'll take on the money, whatever, and then we'll DFA him whenever we've got our rotation healthy. There's a lot of teams that are desperate for starters right now, but this had to be done, Alex.
It had to be done, but can I be 100% honest? It pisses me off because this should have been done, and maybe not the DFA, but he should not have started that last start.
So let's talk about this on the other side. We'll continue our conversation about Erick Fedde. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. We also have the Scott Lee Heating mic drop feature. I would imagine many of you have some thoughts on Erick Fedde making the last couple of starts and being designated for assignment today. We'll get all of your thoughts. We'll hear from you via the mic drop feature in the text line coming up next. We'll give you some of our more extended thoughts on the Fedde decision. If you missed it, the Cardinals have designated Erick Fedde for assignment. We'll discuss it next year on BK and Ferrario. Off the air. T-Bone is on the side that nobody will trade for Erick Fedde. I believe somebody will. That does not mean that somebody is going to give you anything of significance, but I do believe that somebody will trade for Erick Fedde. My bet is it's somebody like the LA Dodgers. They don't care about the money. They are desperate for pitching right now, like truly desperate for pitching. And they'll say, all right, we'll bring him in. He'll make like 2 starts for us while we're waiting for some of our guys to get healthy. And then we'll DFA him as well. He'll go through waivers and whatever. We'll eat the $2 million.
The Dodgers are such a well-run organization. I would bet 50 he's not a Dodger.
Well, I'm not doing that for you because I'm not going to bet on a specific team because that's crazy. But I would bet that somebody picks him up. If you missed it, news of the day: the St. Louis Cardinals have done the obvious. They've designated for assignment Erick Fedde, the corresponding move. They are bringing up Andre Granillo, so he is back in the bullpen. Erick Fedde is gone. Our expectation is Michael McGreevy will take his spot in the rotation. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. YouTube chat is available for you at youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. Alex, you were saying before the break you're upset about this. Not that he's been designated for assignment. No. We all have the exact same reaction to that. Yeah. Like, of course, yes, that is the correct move. But you're annoyed that it took this long. Explain to us your emotions right now as you see this decision officially being made.
After that awful Cubs game, the second one where he couldn't get 2 innings, it was pretty obvious that there was no way he could start another game. Michael McGreevy was the one that should have started that game against the Atlanta Braves. But it went back and forth of heeing and hawing, and then we found out that, look, the decision was Erick Fedde's making that start. You could look at it and say it was a fine start. They gave him a chance to win. But at the time he made that start against the Atlanta Braves, Cardinals were 2 games out of a wild card spot. And Michael McGreevy, although he has had rougher outings as of late, he was still a better option than Erick Fedde. And it was an easy decision to make the call of like, look, we've run its course with Erick Fedde. There's no getting this any better. We can't polish this turd anymore. This is where we're at. Put McGreevy here. Let's move on from Fedde. At the time, it could have just been an IL stint. You could have come up with something and said, we're going to set him on the 15-day IL, and we'll talk to him after the All-Star break and decide what to do. But instead, they said, nope, we're going to go with Erick Fedde. They did not call up Michael McGreevy, and they went back there with Fedde for the Braves game. McGreevy should have started both of those games. Now, I know he started against Colorado, and I don't know what would have happened because they were pushing a couple of other guys back to get him a little extended rest. The frustration is they knew after that Cubs game they couldn't go back with Erick Fedde anymore. But instead, in a team that was trying to continue to push for a playoff spot, they said, nope, we're going to go with the guy who we know can't give us a chance to win.
They almost, it's going to sound weird because I don't think this is what Mo was trying to do at the time, but they self-sabotaged.
Yes.
They effectively sealed their fate as a seller with their decisions on Erick Fedde, because his last 3 starts, 1 1/3 innings, 3 earned runs, couldn't keep him out there, 4 walks and got 4 outs. The next start, 4 2/3 against the Atlanta Braves, 6 hits, 3 earned runs. That line looks much better than it looked as you watched that game. And then this one, 3 innings against the worst team in Major League Baseball, one of the worst teams in the history of baseball, 7 hits, 6 earned runs. Over the course of his last 3 outings, 9 total innings, 15 hits allowed, 6 walks, 6 strikeouts, 12 earned runs in 9 innings.
Yeah.
You had no chance in the 3 starts by Erick Fedde. If you had simply won 2 of those games, Alex, you flip 2 of those results, and instead of you losing all 3, you win 2 of them. Right now, you are effectively a game and a half back of the San Diego Padres.
Yeah.
You self-sabotage.
Going into that series with them coming up.
Correct. So you would have an opportunity to pass the Padres this weekend if you had simply had, I don't know, something resembling an actual major league starter.
Yeah.
Somebody that could give you competent innings. And I don't mean this to be a you-know-what to Erick Fedde. I feel for him, man. He's going out there. That's got to be the loneliest feeling in the world.
Totally.
I cannot imagine. I heard some of his comments yesterday after the game. I just wanted to go give him a hug. Like, the dude is clearly, he has 0 confidence. He is a broken man when he's stepping out there on the mound. He knows as well as all of us do on the outside looking in, this ain't working, dude. What you're doing is, it's a, 40% version of the Fedde that we saw a year ago.
Yeah.
So it sucks for him, but man, the Cardinals deserve all of the criticism that they've been given, and it all goes to the front office.
I was going to say, you got to direct it to one person. It's John Mozeliak.
I'm not going to direct it specifically at him. This is a whole front office decision.
Yeah.
It's all of you. It's the owner. It's the front office. It's Mo. It's everybody. Everybody deserves criticism for these decisions.
And you nailed it with the self-sabotage, BK. Listen to the team's reaction to McGreevy's start the other night against Colorado.
Yeah.
The way that Pages and Wilson Contreras were reacting, I can almost guarantee with the tinfoil theory attached to it, that after that Atlanta start, before that Atlanta start, they were thinking the same thing. man, we can't put Fedde out there. We need McGreevy in this start. He doesn't start. That if they miss the playoffs, and it's signaling they're going to miss the playoffs, to me, I'm going to look back on that Atlanta Braves game, because that, to me, is the moment that I think John Mozeliak and the front office as a whole lost that clubhouse. Now, you can say that they need to be more stronger mentally, but as a team that's 1.5, 2 games out of a wild card spot, that knows the schedule is setting themselves up to at least be competitive down the stretch, and had played competitive baseball all the way up until the All-Star break, to know that you're going to keep throwing that guy out there when there's a better option in AAA that gives you a better chance to win, that Atlanta Braves game on July 12th, to me, at the end of the season, is going to be when the Cardinals lost out on the playoffs.
From the 573, guys, the blame to me lies directly on Marmol and Dusty Blake.
No way.
I don't even know how to respond to that. I don't know how many times has Ollie Marmol come out and said, I want this to be a situation where Michael McGreevy's here long term. He's not saying that with no spot in mind, guys. Like, he sees what you see.
Here's the funny part.
Sorry,
people are going to blame Ollie for that, but yet they also believe Mo's the one writing the lineup card for Ollie.
It's baffling.
How does that one work?
Ollie said after that start that we're talking about, Alex, a couple of weeks ago, we can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. He said that. That was post-game. I think that was after the Pittsburgh Pirates start. And then for like the next 3 days, he basically said, yeah, it's a conversation internally. There's only so much that I can say. You know, there's decisions, disagreements on this. Like, come on. He's made it very clear where he lied on this. He wanted to start the guy that he believed gave them the best chance to win. And the front office viewed this as, we've got to look bigger picture. We need to continue to maintain Erick Fedde's trade value. Ollie's planning for today. Mo and the front office are planning for the future. All right, let's hear from you guys. Aaron is on the mic drop feature talking about the Erick Fedde decision.
It's about dang time that we DFA'd Fedde. It'd be really nice if we as a fan base could DFA our front office and the ownership group.
Cardinals are 49-33 in games that Fedde has not pitched this season.
Dude, it's
Wait, what was the record?
49-33. 16 games above 500.
And that's with Mikolas in there.
That's with Mikolas in there.
They're like he's got 500 when Mikolas starts.
Mikolas has had more quality starts than Erick Fedde.
49-33
without Fedde. So put McGreevy into that one. For what? Add in the 16 games?
So they have a 598 win percentage when he's out there. To put that in context, can I tell you where that would rank in the National League?
I know where it would. No, first.
Oh, what?
It would be the best record in the National League.
That stinks.
Let me go a step further. It would actually be the best record in Major League Baseball.
You'd be buying at the deadline.
Well, I wouldn't
that pisses me off. How is that possible?
Yep.
When Erick Fedde doesn't start, the Cardinals have the best record in baseball?
Yep. You can thank...
That's real?
You can thank the 314 for that one. He tweeted that to us.
I hope that's not real.
It's right.
No, that can't be right.
49-33. He texted it twice.
All right, let's hear from Nicholas on the mic drop feature. We got to go to our guy, Chris Kerber, here in just a little bit.
I can't say I'm pissed off like Alex is, because I'm just absolutely apathetic and numb to whatever it is the Cardinals are doing. But, yeah, I don't understand how Fedde continued to get starts when he was falling off of a cliff. You know, if you want to say that they were trying to win, then I just don't believe you when you still have Mikolas and Fedde, specifically Fedde, still making starts. I can't fathom how there's nobody in AAA that can't outperform that. I understand they need seasoning and blah, 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 but then what does that say about the coaching staff at the big league level that you can't even, hold somebody's hand through the rest of this season or for a few months until you figure out what you're going to do with the starters? I don't understand what's going on in AAA or anything else like that in this minor league system, that you don't have a single pitcher that can outperform what the hell Fedde's doing.
I think he's actually a little upset.
It seems like he might be a little bit upset.
I think he's upset like me.
Just to clarify, not the best record in Major League Baseball when Erick Fedde doesn't start. Not quite. I did the math on my own. I don't know where that gentleman got his math from, but they would be 47-35 when he doesn't start, which would be roughly the equivalent right now, record-wise, as the New York Mets.
Yeah, they said they're 52-50, and they're 3-17 in the 20 games Fedde has started.
They're 5-15. when he starts. This is very
Somebody
easy to
had
find.
bad math.
Unfortunately, that is not correct. They're 5-15 when Erick Fedde starts, so a 573 win percentage.
For 2 more wins.
Yeah, it's close enough.
Sure.
It's still
575 is still what, like the 4th best team in the National League?
They would be 2nd place right now in the National League wild card, a half game up on the New York Mets for that spot.
And if they were in the East, they'd be above the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah. So
still can piss you off.
Yeah, you would still be very mad.
Those 2
Just not
wins,
quite at the same
those
level.
2 wins don't make that much of a difference.
He's Alex Ferrario. That's Tanner Hendrickson. I'm Brandon Kiley. This is going to be most of our show today, so feel free to get your mic drops in on the 101 ESPN app. How you feeling today as Erick Fedde has been designated for assignment by the St. Louis Cardinals? We'll get some questions coming up at 11:45. We've got some questions for the voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber, when he joins us next year on 101 ESPN.
All right, it's hotter than Hades outside. And if you're driving around in your car and your air conditioner isn't working, I got nothing for you. Actually, I do. I could help you out, but that's for another story. But when you get home, if that air conditioner isn't working, then you got to get on the phone to Classic Air. You can call them, you can go online, you can set up an appointment to have them come out and make sure that that air conditioner is working for you at classicaircare.com. They've got a 4.8 Google rating. Their customer service is off the charts. They'll get in there. They've got techs that have over 40 years of experience to work with any unit of any age They're going to educate you on why it's not working. They're going to tell you what they need to do to fix it. And they're going to make sure that your home is comfortable again. We've told you plenty of times over the last 6 months, make sure you get them out there to maintain that unit so it's working when you need it. Well, now is when you need it. And again, if you get it maintained, great. If something has gone wrong in the meantime, no problem. Keep them in front of mind. It's classic air care. If that air conditioner isn't working right, get them out there to get them working perfectly for you. Make an appointment today at classicaircare.com. They've been making people comfortable since 1926.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Cardinals get shellacked in Colorado last night as Erick Fedde suffers another loss as the Cardinals fall 8-4. And today the St. Louis Cardinals are DFAing the struggling starter Erick Fedde for assignment, and they have recalled right-handed pitcher Andre Granillo. And the Cardinals will try and take 2 of 3 in Colorado later today. 2:10 will be first pitch. Andre Palante will get the start for St. Louis. The Sports Center update is driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. SeaMalondoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Chris Kerber's the voice of the Blues. Man, my voice is just shot right now. I do apologize. He joins us here on BK and Ferrario. Let's start out with this, Kerbs. When you have a cold as a broadcaster, what is your typical regimen? What are you going through with that?
Well, listen, BK, first off, I feel for you there because I have called some goals where I've gone to say he shoots, he scores, and that scores comes out. And I sound like I could have been the lead into the Vienna Boys choir. Okay?
Grant and I love those moments.
Yeah, every now and then it'll just crack and you'll squeak like puberty is still eons away. But, you know what? I've always gone with just simple because it's soothing: hot water, honey, and lime juice. Parents said it as a kid, and I think it's fantastic. But here's something fascinating that you kind of think about, or you don't think about when you're using your voice all the time. But, a few years ago, I had a polyp removed from a vocal cord, right? So I wasn't allowed to speak for 10 days. If you ask anybody in the family, it was the greatest 10 days of their life, right?
BK has
you
to
asked me. I was coaching a CYC soccer game with a whiteboard during that stretch. It was kind of fun.
Kerb's got his mind.
But so here's the thing. When I was, you're going through the rehab part afterwards, and I'm talking with the ENT, the guy that did the surgery, and, was asking about, okay, well, is there something to drink, something? He goes, no. He goes, your vocal cords are on the other side. It really doesn't matter what you drink. He goes, the reason that it feels good is because if it's something that's warm, it actually just kind of warms that area. And just like a muscle pain or somewhere else in your body, that heat or cold actually makes it feel good. But it really doesn't matter. And I went, son of a gun. Now, he did say if you do drink, like, caffeine can kind of constrict the vocal cords. If you're using it a lot, stay away from caffeine, that kind of thing. But that was kind of eye-opening. That was sort of a drink whatever you think because it doesn't matter.
Well,
Tell him to go to hell with the caffeine thing.
Well, no, I'm glad he said that because I was always told that I can't be what's the word I'm thinking of? A professional singer because I drink too much caffeine. Messes with your vocal cords, and I thought you were lying.
Now you guys may know this story, maybe you don't, but I was sitting down to do a game in St. John, New Brunswick, and about 10 minutes before the game, I think this was the 98-99 season, 10 minutes before the game, like, my heart starts racing. Don't know what it is. So I go down to see the trainer, and the trainer, they were affiliated with the Calgary Flames. They were the St. John Flames. And so they get their team doctor to come in and goes, well, I don't think it's a heart attack because it's a regular beat, but let's send you to the hospital anyway. So they put me in the front seat of the equipment truck and drive me to the local hospital there in St. John. They hooked me up. things kind of calmed down. The doctors say we can't really figure out what the heck that was. And so I get back to the arena about the second period. There's a total stranger sitting in my chair calling the game. Turns out he was a season ticket holder that sat right in front of the visiting broadcasters. He looked back to our beat writer and said, "Where's your broadcaster?" And our beat writer said, "I don't know." So the guy got up from his chair, came into the press box area and says, "I'll do it for him," and sat down and started calling the game back to Springfield. And then because of that, nothing could figure out. I ended up, I said, okay, well, maybe, because I drank, several cans of Coca-Cola like people would drink coffee at the time. And I said, no, I'm just going to get rid of caffeine. So really, except for what's in an iced tea, I don't drink caffeine, haven't had caffeine in probably 27 years now. Well, like if I'm doing on a long drive, I'll drink a Dr. Pepper. Like just to stay awake, and man, I'll tell you what, I'm like a cat on acid for a while after throwing one of those things down.
Yeah, when Curbs walks into the booth and says, "I've had caffeine today," Joey and I are like, "Oh, geez, it's gonna be a rough night."
Yeah, the three of us consume plenty of caffeine.
I'm just like Beavis and Butthead once I've had caffeine.
The three of us in this room consume plenty of caffeine to make up for your lack of caffeine consumption, Curbs. Chris Kerber is the voice of the Blues. He's joining us here on BK and Ferrario. Curbs, there's not a ton of Blues conversations to have today, but I do want to ask you about something St. Louis related. Big news stories just dropped for the Cardinals. They have decided to designate for assignment Erick Fedde, setting aside the saga that was just not a particularly good look for the organization. Curbs, I know you have some Cardinals fandom in you. What was your perspective on Fedde continuing to start, what that said about where the organization is at right now, and just as a fan, how you internalized that?
Well, I think as a fan, like you guys, I wanted to see if McGreevy could stay consistent, right, in some of his starts. But one thing that I've learned, though, in sports, and I'm always hesitant, like let's say with this move, let's say McGreevy gets a regular spot in the rotation and he does really, really well. There is nothing to say that how he was handled with his time up or down wasn't a reason that he's doing well. So you would say, well, they handled him really well there, right? Because he's found success. The challenge that you have here, guys, to me, it's actually a pretty simple one. The Cardinals came in with a plan. They played well. They exceeded expectations through the first half of the season. There are signs through some stretches there, like they just had in Arizona, where the team is pretty much in that let's just see what we have as a group phase. And then there were signs that when everybody clicks, they're a better baseball team. It didn't really bother me all that much that they kept throwing Fedde out there because there aren't a ton of other options. I didn't go into the season with a ton of expectations, and I don't think that the Cardinals really should change the course too much based on this season. So to me, I've always thought that they were going to be sellers around the trade deadline, or should be. They find out what they have. You use this year to improve it, because even if you're maybe they knocked on the door of the wild card, they keep it interesting, they keep it good. You're not a championship caliber team. You do not have championship caliber players coming up through your system. And if you do have some really good players, like Weatherholt that you hope is going to be really good, there's still going to be some major league seasoning that's going to have to happen. To me, you stay the course, you find the positives on this season, like a Donovan and others, and then you hang your hat on those and you build around them moving forward. That's just kind of a real simple way I look at it.
Curbs, I do have a hockey question for you because over these last couple of weeks, we've started to see some reporters say that players looking at future contracts. Adrian Kempe over in the LA Kings potentially asking for $10+ million. The report now is Kaprizov might be resetting the market for forwards with a contract north of $14 million. When you look at what this could become for some of these forwards, how do you view Thomas and Kyrie's contracts on the Blues?
Same way we viewed them 3 years ago when they started. These contracts have a chance to be absolute team value deals. And there's no doubt about it. Now, look, the market is set for a specific player on the time. It's almost not even fair to say, well, Thomas should have a better deal or Kyrie should have a better deal based on today's market. They were free agents then. Jay McKee, when the Blues signed him to a 4x4 the same year that Zdeno Chara was signed by the Boston Bruins, with the benefit of a market in that standpoint. But what I would tell fans to do is keep this in mind as the salary cap is going up. Sometimes you have to look at AAV, that average annual value, but also look at what percentage of the cap that is. because nowadays you're looking at an $8 million contract being the same percentage of a cap hit as a $6 million contract was 5 years ago, right? And so the way I look at contracts like that, fellas, is you still cannot be like the Toronto Maple Leafs, where you've had 3 or 4 contracts that take care of most of your salary cap, or say 50% of it, 40% of it, where you can't sign enough other depth players. You still need the depth players to win. That's why you saw, I think, those 3 players re-signed in Florida. Very good contracts for them, team value for the team as well. You know, Kachuk is at a manageable number, things like that. So, yeah, Kaprizov could reset it. And if players are going to go out and say, I've got to get the highest possible value that I can get for a team, you're going to find yourself on teams that don't have the money to actually add players around you to win. So I think those 2 deals signed by the Blues ended up being great foresight deals. They're still very good deals for Thomas and Kyrou, but terrific foresight deals from the team as well to get those guys locked up till they're 31, 32 years old.
He is Chris Kerber. He's the voice of the Blues. He joins us each and every Wednesday here on BK and Ferrario. Curbs, appreciate the time as always, man. Enjoy yourself the rest of the week. We'll talk with you again next week.
All right. Stay cool, fellas. Cheers.
We'll do our best. It's miserable out there.
I got a pool day scheduled for me and the girls when I get home.
Kara asked, she was like, hey, do you want to go to this concert tonight? I said,
come over.
what?
Yeah.
It's outside.
There's no way you're going to a concert.
No.
They said by like 8 o'clock tonight it's going to feel like 80 degrees outside.
No,
I'm like,
it's
does
gonna
that feel
like
good?
90.
Oh.
It's 88 degrees at 9 p.m. tonight.
I checked my phone last night at 1 in the morning, and it still said it felt like 90 degrees. I was like,
Yeah.
now that's
It
absurd.
rained
She just
yesterday
texted
and I
me. She
walked
said,
out.
by 9 o'clock, it will be a beautiful 88 degrees outside.
Oh, that's nice.
Me and Kara have different descriptions of beautiful in terms of weather
She
outside.
said we could take Luca, hang out for a little bit. I said, no.
That is torture.
Me and Luca are staying inside.
Me and Luca will be staying in
You
the
go have fun.
AC.
I will be at home. With Alex and T-Bone on BK, somebody on the text line said, I missed it, guys. What happened? Somebody got DFA'd? Sure did. Cardinals decided to DFA Erick Fedde. We're talking about it here on BK and Ferrario. If you guys want to get your thoughts in, 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. The Scott Lee Heating mic drop feature is on the 101 ESPN app. I do have this question for you. We'll get to your questions coming up next. Where does Erick Fedde rank among the most disliked Cardinals players in recent memory? Among your fans, like not opposing players, because obviously there's some players that would fit into that criteria, but I'm talking about on the Cardinals from St. Louis Cardinals fans. Who are the most disliked fans in recent memory? We'll get into some of those coming up at 12 o'clock. Questions and answers is next here on 101 ESPN.
Questions and Answers presented by Vantage Credit Union. As a local financial partner, Vantage puts your needs first. Membership eligibility required.
314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and get them in right now on the Air Comfort Service text line. What did you just say, Alex?
Buster Olney, our good friend that you don't know how to call him by his right name. Surprise name has emerged in the starting pitching market. Dylan Cease, who will be eligible for free agency at year's end. Perception of other teams is that the Padres are intent on making a push for the playoffs and would use Cease to help fill other roster needs. Mets, AL East teams, Cubs among the teams that have talked about him.
So here's a question for you. What do you think they're looking for? Obviously offense, because they can't hit.
Yeah, I was going to say, their other needs are a big bat, which is crazy to say when you have Machado, Merrill, and
I'm going to say something
Jr.
really stupid.
You going
to call out Buster Olney again? He already doesn't join our show.
No.
Okay. Kylie McDaniel won't answer either anymore.
Is Cease a guy that you would want?
No.
Let me start there.
He's not pitching well, and he's a free agent, which means he's going to get paid.
All of his peripherals are amazing. Strikes out the world, doesn't walk anybody. He's got a home run issue this year. The BABIP is crazy high. Everything under the radar would suggest, yeah, this is a guy you bet on. You bet on this guy to be really good again. He's 29 years old. You'd be signing him age 30 season. Would you consider doing the classic Cardinals move of trading for him and doing so with the intent of signing him long term?
What's that contract look like?
Big.
Yeah, and that's where I don't know if I would do it, and I don't think the Cardinals will. No, I know the Cardinals won't do that. I mean, I'm all for going for somebody, swinging low for a guy and trying to get the upside. You're right. That's what the Cardinals used to do. But, man, for a 30-year-old pitcher...
You're probably looking at something similar to, like, the Sonny Gray AAV, but for more years, probably. Like a 6x30, something like that.
Probably. Yeah,
that'd be my guess.
He's going to be 30 next year.
Yeah.
He's not even 30 now. I would do it.
You're giving up a lot. Like, you were talking Donovan plus.
Yeah,
probably in this scenario.
Do I think the Cardinals would do it? No. But yes, because, I mean, every time I've watched Dylan Cease pitch, maybe he gives up a bunch of runs. His stuff looks incredible. Like, to your point, he is somebody that I would be willing to bet on because all the peripherals tell me, okay, there is something here. It's just a matter of finding a way to unlock his ability to limit the home run ball or to prevent big innings from snowballing on him. So, yeah, I would take a bet on Dylan Cease.
I would bet on it as well. I don't know what the trade would look like, but I just was curious where you guys were at. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers from the 314. Guys, in light of the Fedde news today, do you consider last year's trade a win, a loss, or a wash for the Cardinals? Tommy Edman going out, Fedde and Tommy Pham coming in. Would you consider that a win, loss, or a wash for the Cardinals?
I mean, I'd call it a loss. Didn't make the playoffs last year. Kind of the reason you traded for him, and he didn't help you make the playoffs this year. In fact, he actually hurt your chances of making the playoffs this year. So, and I'm not saying it's a loss by the pieces you gave up on the other end. I just think when you look at it, neither of the players you acquired in that trade helped you make the playoffs this year or last year.
Call it a wash. I don't think Tommy Edman had a spot on this team.
I think that's where I am. I think I would call it a wash. I kind of lean towards the loss category, but you didn't really have a role for Tommy Edman, especially if you wanted to play Brendan Donovan, Mason Wynn, and you were stuck with Nolan Arenado, and you wanted to play Nolan Gorman. Like, I have no idea what Edman's role was, and he probably would have taken the role of Victor Scott this year. Victor Scott probably wouldn't be getting big league experience because that's probably how they would have gotten him in the lineup. And he's the same guy that he always has been, right? Below league average offensive player, very good defensive player with utility value. I would say it's a wash.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. From the 314, guys, I don't dislike Fedde. He just lost it here as a pitcher. At some point in time, they end up losing it. Do you guys think people dislike Fedde, or do they dislike the fact that Fedde was pitching for the Cardinals?
I think they dislike more because of Fedde. More. Like, I don't think the hate's towards Erick Fedde. I think Erick Fedde's just not a good pitcher this year. I think the hate comes from the fact that he continued to pitch this season for the Cardinals.
Yeah, that's where I am. I don't think it's anything. Erick Fedde doesn't give off like a bad personality. I think it's frustration of, man, this team was kind of in a playoff race, and you elected to continue to throw out a guy that everybody knew was a problem. That's where the hate comes from.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from the 636. Guys, for me, Fedde is up there with Cecil and Mike Leake. Nothing short of aggravating their whole time that they were here.
I think Cecil is probably the number one. Fowler, I think I'd put Leake above Fowler in terms of most disliked player, and then Fowler would be number 3 on that list.
Fowler's that high, huh?
Yeah. It's just because, and again, I think it's maybe more hate towards the organization than Fowler, but Fowler just had one really good season and never lived up to what he was supposed to be for the Cardinals.
I think Tyler O'Neill's up there.
Oh, yeah.
I think Jason Hayward's up there. I think Hayward might be second.
Comments
Right. Yeah.
I would put Ozuna up there. Ozuna was very much a hot button topic, especially as they saw Alcantara.
I think the hate for Ozuna came because the Cardinals didn't get Yelich or Stanton.
And defense.
Yeah.
Well,
I can't
Gold
believe that
Glove
guy
really
won
shouldn't
Gold
have
Glove.
mattered.
I can't believe that guy played center ever.
A lot of these are like projecting hate on Mo to the player that is a reflection of Mo's decisions.
Yeah. And also the Ozuna you hate is because Alcantara and Gallen went the other way.
Totally. Yeah.
I think it's more the trade, what you traded away for him than the player.
He's
He
Alex
climbed a
Ferrario.
wall for a home run that fell. And 10
Holiday
feet in
had
front
one of
him.
those moments too, and everybody loves Holiday.
Well, with Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. We'll continue talking a little bit about the Erick Fedde decision if you missed it. News today here on 101 ESPN. Erick Fedde has been designated for assignment. The Cardinals have called up Andre Granillo to take his spot on the roster. The expectation, this has not been officially announced, but the expectation is that means Michael McGreevy will now be inserted into the rotation for the, at least foreseeable future, I would assume, the remainder of the season. If you guys have any thoughts on that, you can get them in right now on the Air Comfort Service text line at 314-399-9646, or the Scott Lee Heating mic drop feature is on the 101 ESPN app. We'll be reacting to the Fedde news all day long. Also next, how many players on the Cardinals would be members of a contender team's core? We'll talk about that next here on 101 ESPN. Alex and T-Bone on BK. How many players on the Cardinals would be core members of a contender? 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. When I asked this in the studio, in the office before the show today, both of you immediately said 0. None.
Well, I mean, like Colorado, they like all of the Cardinals players would be
a contender.
Oh, okay.
Man, a contender. I feel like that's a little aggressive.
Do you?
I do.
Okay,
I feel like
through
Ivan
it.
Herrera could be a core member of a contender.
Who's the contender you're thinking of?
I don't know. A contender.
Like, because you're going like World Series contender?
A team that you think of coming into the season and you're like, they could compete for something meaningful this year, right? There's only one team every year that wins the World Series. So it's hard to say like teams that come in and have expectations. Like the Phillies, the Mets, the Braves, the Cubs, the Dodgers, the Padres. I think the Diamondbacks for some would have fit into this criteria. That's probably the list in the National League coming into this season. For those teams that I just mentioned, I feel like Ivan Herrera could be a core member of those teams. I feel like Brendan Donovan could be a core member of those teams. But I also might not be thinking about this in the same way that others are. When I say core member, I mean a guy that you want to keep around for the long haul, right? Like they're a big part of what we're trying to build here. And I think maybe what you were thinking of, based on the way that we were talking about it, you can tell me if I'm totally off on this, is like the driving forces as to why you are winning. Those are the people that are in your core. So it's like a winner's circle.
When I think of core, I think of faces of the team. When I think of the team, I think of those players. They are the reason that team is a contender every single year.
So you're thinking of like 3 to 5 players total, talking about pitching plus hitting side of things on the entire roster.
Like when I think of the Phillies, I go to Harper, I go to Schwarber, I go to Rio Muto, I go to Zach Wheeler. Those are Trey Turner, Aaron Nola. Those are the guys that I go to. When I think of the Mets, I go to Lindor, I go to Soto, I go to Alonso.
God, these guys are so much better than what the Cardinals
but like when you said the Brewers, I could say
Cubs. I don't think the Brewers were in this category. I didn't think they were making the playoffs this year, so I couldn't have considered them to be a contender.
The Cubs, I wouldn't. I don't think Herrera is a piece of that. I mean, maybe I'm being too mean about it, but like I think Crow Armstrong, I think Tucker, I think. Who's the pitcher that's hurt for them right now?
Oh, Steele.
Yeah, Justin Steele. Like those are the guys that I think of. Imanaga falls into that. Those are the guys that I think of. So I think if I was picking through the Cardinals roster, I could probably make a case for Herrera. Probably make a case for Brendan Donovan, but to me, Donovan just screams like on a contending
I feel like
team.
You could make a case for, no? I mean, if we're going to put Justin Steele in that category, shouldn't you also have...
I mean, I think Steele's been a better pitcher over the last 2 years than Sonny.
It's pretty close.
Sonny's got a 4
really
ERA right now. And I understand all the underlying stuff, but at some point your ERA matters.
Like the 5th inning.
And 70 pitches.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back to this.
Yeah, and I mean, like...
I think they're very similar. Steele has pitched 4 times this year.
I think the Cardinals...
He blew out his arm.
I think at least he tried to go out there and throw, you know?
He'd still be on the mound if he could.
I just think the Cardinals are chock full of complementary players. Now, on this team, they seem like teams that you think of, like Donovan and Herrera and Burleson, but I think when you're going to a contender... I just don't think I'd have those guys in versus outranking any of the other players on those teams.
Man, how do you... I'm going to ask the question that we've been talking about for a while. How do you change that?
Draft and develop.
But like
aggressive trades.
Well,
that means you're not
to be
close.
fair,
if you're drafting and developing those players,
well, but I mean,
that takes years, dude.
I mean, like Kyle Stowers is, I would say, probably a core piece of the Miami Marlins moving forward.
That's the hope. But I've also seen guys in the Cardinals organization do this where they're really good suddenly, randomly, and then like there's a hole in their swing that is exposed the following season. Count me as highly skeptical for Kyle Stowers.
Stowers did the first year.
The 28-year-old player that is suddenly going to turn it on and be 50% above league average, who has never previously been above a league average hitter. Like I'm very skeptical of this.
Somebody's got a tone issue.
I'm very skeptical of guys that have this kind of a one-off season.
Here's what I would say: the lesson could be learned from that one is you could get a core piece like that, maybe not a 28-year-old, but that kind of player in a significant trade. Now, somehow they robbed Baltimore in a Trevor Rogers trade. But I bring that up because you're selling Helsley at the deadline, right? Like, you could be getting a core piece for whatever the next iteration of the Cardinals looks like in the trade of Ryan Helsley. You think you've got that with J.J. Weatherholt down at AAA. You think you've got that with Liam Doyle, who you drafted number 5 overall in this year's draft. Like, okay, now we're talking about 4 pieces. Now, it's unknown if they're going to become what I think of the core piece, which is basically the way that you defined it, Alex. But I think that is kind of their hope right now, is that's what they're probably envisioning as the next core. Maybe not the Helsley acquisition part, but that's what I would say. And to be fair, though I would not put Herrera in as one of these guys that would be a core piece on a contending team, I think he's the one guy that has a shot to get there.
Sure.
Because his bat is special. Hitting 300, 800 OPS, like he's going to grow into more power as he gets older. I think the thing for him is he's got to find a position. And the other thing for me is he is also
Schwarber
still kind of the unknown.
You guys both considered him to be a core member.
Sure,
of
but
the Phillies.
what the second part I said there is he's an unknown still, Herrera. Yeah. Schwarber's become a household name to where it doesn't matter if he doesn't have a position.
He does his playoff moments.
For Herrera, it's still, okay, what are you, right? And he's dealt with 2 injuries this year that have helped kind of stall what we think of what he's going to be. I think the next 2 months can define what he's going to turn out to be if he is a guy that could be a part of a core piece on a contending team.
And to be clear, I'm not disagreeing with you at all on that. I'm just like on the you got to find a position part. Like if I think there are other players, like we would all agree, Yordan Alvarez, he's a core member of the Astros, even though he doesn't play baseball lately.
He's a left fielder.
But no, he's a designated hitter. There are guys that have been this. J.D. Martinez was this for a really long time. I think he can, even if he doesn't find a position, be a core member of the team. It puts that much more pressure on the bat. Like Schwarber has consistently been 30 to 50% above league average offensively. That's got to be the range that Ivan Herrera finds himself in if he's going to be that kind of a player. It's just an interesting spot to be in as an organization because they have so many of these solid pieces that like the Phillies would love to have players like Alec Burleson and Mason Wynn and Victor Scott and like these complementary pieces, Brendan Donovan, Ivan Herrera, all these guys. They would be great players on a team like the Phillies to supplement the talent that is at the top of their roster with the Harper, Turner, Schwarber, etc. They're missing some of those guys, honestly. Like, that's something they're going to be looking for at the deadline. The Dodgers, every year, they get to the deadline, they're like, man, we really need to fill out 6 through 9 in our lineup. That was what Tommy Edman was there to do last year. The same thing is true at times for the New York Mets. They build this top-heavy lineup. Honestly, Alex, it's not all that dissimilar from hockey, where the Colorado Avalanche every year, great top 6. You get to the bottom 6, you're like, oh, lacking. Really lacking there. So they try to reconstruct their bottom 6 on the fly. It's basically what the bottom half of the lineup is for some of these contenders. The Cardinals' problem is, dude, man, if you just took some of these top half of the order hitters and put them towards the bottom, they're in great shape. Really excellent shape because they've got all of the supplementary pieces you could possibly ask for. But they're lacking that top of the lineup star level talent. And if you're not willing to pay for it, and you're not consistently going to be drafting at the top of any individual MLB draft, and you only have really one guy that's coming through your system with this kind of potential, it's really hard to envision a scenario where you're able to get it.
I think you said it. They're farther away than we believe they are.
Or T-Bone's right, and they have to trade for it.
But
those are the 2 scenarios.
That's the aggressiveness / creativity that you hope Heimblum has in his arsenal. And you're not going to know that until this offseason. This offseason could change all of our minds in terms of where the Cardinals are at and how they're going to be moving forward. Frankly, it's why Heimblum, I think there's a lot of people that are ready to take that breath of like, hey, we've got something new, we've got something fresh with the Cardinals. But for as it stands right now, I think you said it best. They're further away than we believed they were 2 months into the season.
I hope that's wrong, but I also think too, and like this is where their model had been, and I still think it can work, but it's really hard to figure out where that comes from. Is you get the star, but he's in the older side of things, right? He's more in the 30 range than he is in the younger 20s. Like what their old model was, hey, we don't draft and develop the superstar, even though they claim they did that. They did it once in Albert. But it was, hey, Goldschmidt, probably going to free agency. Arizona needs something for him. He's on the older side, so he's not going to cost a lot. It's really what the Sonny Gray contract was, right?
Yes.
Sonny Gray's
a
top 2, 3, he's a top 2 starter on a really good team. 3rd, depending on where, like the Dodgers, he'd be 4. But most teams, he's in that 2, 3 range as a starter. The only reason the Cardinals can afford Sonny Gray is because he's older. If he was in his Dylan Cease, who's going into his walk year and is turning 30 going into free agency, Cardinals aren't in that market because BK was right. He's probably getting 30, 35 mil at 6 years, and the Cardinals just don't do those kind of contracts.
Yeah, but it feels like those don't matter unless you're in closer to a winning window.
I agree.
Like the Goldschmidt and Arenado at the time, you believed you were closer to that winning window. Now it doesn't make any sense for this team.
Yeah, I agree. I still think it could make sense for this team. The problem is there's just it's hard to see where those guys are coming from.
Yeah.
Right? Arenado became very frustrated in Colorado, so that made all the sense in the world. At the time they made the Goldie trade, they had Ozuna, if I'm not mistaken, right? So, like, you needed another bat. Boom, this star isn't going to re-sign in Arizona. He's not going to be all that expensive. This makes the most sense for us. The reason I say these kind of make sense for the Cardinals is when they acquired Ozuna, they had a bunch of complementary pieces still on the roster, right?
Yep.
So they were able to go out and trade from a surplus of pitching to go out and get that, what they thought was one of the bats they needed. So it made sense. I think they're kind of there with the complementary pieces. The problem is I can't pinpoint where the star comes from because I don't see that guy on the market going into the offseason. I mean, maybe that changes. Maybe there's a team that blows it up, and then that's where they can try and go and get that guy. But I don't see that right now. You could kind of see Goldie coming in Arizona. You could kind of see Arenado coming from Colorado. It's hard to see where that match is right now for St. Louis.
I don't see it.
I don't either.
Sign Kyle Tucker.
No, and that's what I mean. Like,
It's got to be trading for a younger guy.
I don't even know about that because I don't think they have the assets to go get the younger guy.
I think they do.
They just aren't willing to move on from, or at least this front office group is not willing to move on from those players.
I mean, nobody's going to like hearing this, but this is the kind of stuff that you'd have to do. If you were willing to trade like Matthew Liberatore, Mason Wynn, and Ivan Herrera, that suddenly makes a lot.
That's how you get them.
It puts a lot on the table from other teams, right? If you're willing to move Lars Nootbaar and Mason Wynn and TK Roby, suddenly teams start listening on stuff that they otherwise typically wouldn't be listening on. You've got a bunch of catching prospects through your minor league system. Dude, catching stinks in the major leagues right now. It's terrible. I saw a list of the top 10 catchers in Major League Baseball recently. First of all, Ivan Herrera was still on it. The guy doesn't even play catcher. Second of all, Adley Rutschman was like 6th. Guys, there was a piece yesterday by Ken Rosenthal where he was like, the Orioles have to start thinking about trading Adley Rutschman because they're clearly not going to sign him long-term because he's not the player that they drafted him to be. And that guy is a top 6-ish catcher in the sport right now.
We'll take him.
Like, that was my initial reaction, too, was, God damn, I'd sign up for that guy.
I'm in. I'll find it. We love catchers that can't play catcher.
I mean, he's a decent defensive catcher who is slightly above league average offensively. Honestly, he's Sean Murphy.
You can make him an outfielder, probably.
Probably.
Make him a corner outfielder.
Sean Murphy, I think, was also in the top 7 of this list that I saw, and the Braves can't seem to get rid of him quick enough.
Well, but look back to those conversations we were having about those catchers before Wilson Contreras was signed. Like, we were talking Sean Murphy, you were talking Gabe Moreno, you were talking Alejandro Kirk. Now, I know some of those guys didn't get moved, but those were the pieces that you were looking at being like, okay, this is an aggressive move where you bring somebody in who could become a face of the franchise. And they weren't able to get that done because they probably weren't willing to trade. Go back to the Juan Soto conversation we were having in the office last week. Like, you look back on that trade, yeah, you probably still are a little nervous about it because you're not going to be able to re-sign him. But now you look back, you're willing to give up Walker and Gorman and Dylan Carlson, and I think it was Tink Hence for Juan Soto and Mason Wynn. You willing to give those up for Juan Soto? Because, yeah, I'd sign up for that.
They probably would have traded him again.
But you recoup the assets.
Some of
maybe.
Them. The Padres did okay on their deal. Obviously, the Nationals did much better on their end of the deal. But, yeah, I mean, that's the thing about trading prospects, right, is a lot of the time you're right. Because prospects break more often than they work out. And when you trade for superstar-proven talent, it typically works out pretty well for you. Now, there's times where it goes sideways. Don't get me wrong. Look at Nolan Arenado here in St. Louis. But the first couple of years, hey, man, it was pretty good. You got a proven major league caliber player, whereas prospects break and prospects they go sideways for a million different reasons. We're seeing that right now with Jordan Walker. All right, coming up next, I want to talk a little bit of college football. Is it college football playoff or bust for Illinois this season? I got to hold T-Bone's feet to the fire. He said this all year last year with my Missouri Tigers. Is he going to feel the same way about his Illini heading into this season? We'll talk about that next here on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to tell you about my friends out at Classic Air Care, the company that has been making people comfortable since 1926. And I talk so highly of them because I've had them in our family since since I've had a home since 2016. My dad's been using them for his HVAC system since he owned a home when we were young kids. So that's how long they've been taking care of our HVAC system. And what I love about them, you get the knowledgeable technicians, you get the great customer service, but they're always making sure you understand how to maintain that HVAC system. Like this one, the number one thing for maintenance of your air conditioner unit is making sure that your filter is clean. Some people don't even change their filter, which of course deteriorates that HVAC system over time. There's preventative maintenance that Classic Air Care can take care of for you to extend the system's lifespan that you have. So if it's an older unit, you can squeeze as many years out of that until you're ready to go purchase that new HVAC system. Check out all of this information over at ClassicAirCare.com. They actually have a filter subscription that they send it to you every month so that it reminds you to change your unit. But on top of that, they've got the maintenance agreement that you can do and financing for new HVAC systems. Give them a call or tell them Alex Ferrario sent you online, ClassicAirCare.com.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. So Tanner last year, Alex, from start to finish, talked about how it was a college football playoff or bust season for Mizzou. He said if you have these kinds of expectations going into the year, if you fail to meet them, it's a failure of a season. It's a pass-fail test. They failed, according to Tanner Hendrickson last year. The Illini seem to have basically the same expectations going into this year as Mizzou had last season. You know, I know that, Alex, because at Big Ten Media Day yesterday, they released their preseason poll among the media members that were out there in Las Vegas. You know where they had the Illini? Number 4.
I was going to say 3.
Number 4 in the conference. Penn State was 1, Ohio State 2, Oregon 3, the traditional contenders in the conference. Those were your 1, 2, 3. And the Illinois Fighting Illini were 4th over Michigan, Indiana, Iowa, Nebraska, and USC, respectively.
Hell yeah.
T-Bone, it's college football playoff or bust for your team then?
I think it is.
No, you better be definitive about this. You were definitive on Mizzou.
Yeah, there was no questioning it.
Mizzou is a failure if you don't get in.
To be fair, Missouri was returning all of their elite offensive pieces from a year ago, right? Brady Cook. The running back was their biggest question mark, but they also had Luther.
Pretty big question mark.
They still had Luther Burden, who was a second-round pick in a good wide receiver room. Illinois is not returning their top wide receivers that got drafted.
They got their quarterback.
So
they got their running backs.
Different, but I would agree that they are a playoff or bust team. When you return the most starting production in the Big Ten, you only get this opportunity a handful of times if you're Brett Bielema to return these many players that are really good players like Luke Altmaier, Gabe, I believe it's pronounced Yakis, was two guys that made all preseason Big Ten honors, first team and second team. So was Xavier Scott, their DB, who joined the Fast Lane yesterday. I think they have to be considered a playoff or bust style team. Now, some of the production that people are getting excited about does have me like a little worried because everybody's like, they're returning their offensive line. I went, man, I watched the offensive line. I wasn't that impressed last year. But it's another year to learn and develop. So I think they are this team, and their schedule isn't brutal in the Big Ten. They do have a couple tough ones. Like they have Ohio State at home this year. They will see USC. I'm not convinced that Lincoln Riley's building anything special over there at USC. But I do think it is college football player best because when you're a program like Illinois, you're a program like Mizzou, these kind of years only come around once every like 5 or 6 years, I would say. When you get to return everybody, you're able to maintain everybody and not just maintain players. Maintain really good players that are on your team and play pivotal roles.
How many games on your schedule that you look at right now are you saying that should be a loss? Like you're going into the season, writing it in as an L, and it's not like a 50-50 game. You're just pretty sure they're going to lose. I see one.
I agree with that. I think it is just the Ohio State game for me.
That to me means you have got to take advantage of this. Because last year for Mizzou, they had like 2 or 3 of those games on their schedule that you could potentially look at. If you have one game that you're looking at, you say, probably going to lose that one. You shouldn't lose to Western Illinois. You're on the road at Duke in a game that I think is sneaky, could catch up with you a little bit. Duke has a really good quarterback that transferred in this offseason from Tulane. That's a sneaky game to look for, especially on the road. But you should win that one. Home against Western Michigan. And we can all agree you should probably win that one, right? And then you get into a bunch of the 50-50 matchups. At Indiana, home against USC, on the road at Washington won't be easy. On the road at Wisconsin is never an easy place to play. You got like 4 or 5 of those, and it really comes down to can you win 3 of those 4? 3 of the 5. If you can do that and you take care of business and the rest, you're looking at a likely college football playoff bid because you're in the Big Ten this year. So they're a team that could be this year's version of Indiana. Kind of comes out of nowhere, not really supposed to be this necessarily given what the history of the program is. It'd be less surprising than Indiana because there's expectations coming into the season, but I think that's the way that they should be evaluated this year.
Yeah. On top of it, too, I mean, do they have the second best quarterback in the Big Ten? Because Ohio State hasn't named a quarterback yet, right?
Yeah,
I think that's the tough thing, man, is there's so much uncertainty with the Big Ten.
Well, that's kind of what I mean. Like, there's turnover with Big Ten in terms of uncertainty, and it's you and Penn State that has the 2 quarterbacks that are the, I guess, highest profile. And I ask that because they are losing their best weapon offensively in Pat Bryant. So when you lose that, you still have the second best quarterback, at least in the Big Ten. It should open for a playoff seed for you if that's the case.
I'm personally a big fan of Fernando Mendoza. He was a guy that transferred into Indiana this offseason from Cal. I was really hopeful that Mizzou would get him. Indiana was the one that ultimately got his services. So I would take him personally. And you're talking about like the 3 to 5 range more likely. I know that people are down on him because he was not a great player last season. I also really like Raiola. I think that guy is going to have, I don't know if it'll be this year, but eventually I think he's going to be a stud in the Big Ten. More often than not, though, when you're a true freshman, you stink. Yeah. And he had some really bad moments last season, including against Illinois. But I think there are other quarterbacks in the conference that I would probably take over him, but he's no slouch. He's a really good player, and it was a big deal that they kept him this offseason.
Yeah, I think coming into the year, he probably ranks second, and he'll probably finish in that like 3 to 6 range. It just depends on like what some of these guys do. To your point, like I really like Raiola at Nebraska. Depends on does he take that next step? Because if he does, Nebraska suddenly becomes a team that watch out for a little bit.
Exactly.
Same with like Nico Imaleva. He's at UCLA. He could be a guy that looks pretty good and be a top 5 quarterback. The kid at Underwood from Michigan. There's so many unknowns.
Freshman, I always am skeptical, but yeah, he's got all the talent in the world.
But I think the kid from USC, Maeva, I think is his name. He was pretty good last year too when he played for him. So I think right now he comes in as the second best quarterback. I don't think he's going to finish as a top 2 quarterback. But I think their defense is good enough, and they've got enough pieces, hopefully, that are going to replace the lost production at that wide receiver room. To where, like, if he is a top 5, 6 quarterback in the Big Ten, and their defense is as good as it was last year, they can still make the playoff with that.
It's a fair question, though, Alex. Because, like, you ask this, over on The Athletic, they put together their tiers of quarterbacks in college football this year. Where would you guess Luke Altmaier ranked on that? This is out of every quarterback in all of college football, not just in the SEC. So out of all of the quarterbacks across the country, where do you think Luke Altmaier ended up ranking?
I'll say he's somewhere in the top 30, so I'll say like 28.
I was going to say like 21.
13.
Holy.
13th in all of college football. The guys in front of him.
Stud.
You better be in the
Cade
playoffs
Klubnik
then.
with Clemson.
That guy's overrated, but okay.
Garrett Nussmeier, who I really like at LSU. Lenore Sellers, who I think should be number 1 on this list from South Carolina. John Mater, who is at Oklahoma. And there are some very divided opinions on whether he is really good or not. He was at Washington State previously. He was a stud for them, but people are kind of skeptical. Seems like it could go one way or the other. DJ Lagway, who was awesome last year with Florida. Drew Aller, Sam Levitt with Arizona State. We watched him in the college football playoff last year. Kevin Jennings, another guy that we saw in the playoff last year. Josh Hoover from TCU. Arch Manning at 10. And then it's Sawyer Robertson from Baylor and Carson Beck slightly ahead of Luke Altmaier. I think a lot of this is telling us what we probably already knew. Quarterback position just ain't as strong as it was a couple of years ago.
Boy, it sucks to be the team's drafting this year.
Yeah. Diego Pavia is at 15. Haynes King, who's at Georgia Tech, I think he's really good at 16. Fernando Mendoza, who I mentioned, is at 17. And the guy that you're playing in week 2, Darian Mensah, is at number 18 overall on this list. That's the game that I think is going to be really interesting.
That's the game that scares me because it's so early in the year to where, like, you're still a little bit of rust. You're not going to get everything sorted out from practices in your first game against Western Illinois. That's the game that just scares me to where, like, if he has an incredible game, I don't know that they're going to be able to get into offensive shootouts still this year. They couldn't really do that last year. Last year was, okay, we really need to win these games with our defense being really good and get to, like, 20. That's the game that scares me the most because it is so early on in the year.
There's just a lot of uncertainty at the quarterback position in the conference, and that speaks to it. I mean, you look at this. Drew Aller was at 6. Other teams in the Big Ten, Luke Altmaier at 2. He's 13 overall on this list. And then beyond that, Fernando Mendoza is at 17. Nico is at 19. Dante Moore from Oregon is at 24. New starter there. Get pretty far down this list before you see a whole lot of Big Ten starters that are expected to be great in 2025. All right, coming up in about 15 minutes, we're going to dive into the junk drawer. But next, I want to continue our conversation about Erick Fedde. He was officially DFA'd earlier today. It sure seems like Michael McGreevy is going to be sticking around this time, taking that spot in the rotation. We'll talk a little bit about the decision to DFA Fedde and what it means for McGreevy next year on 101 ESPN. Hey, it's BK for my friends over at Victory Men's Health. Give them a call today. Check them out online at victorymenshealth.com. When you do so, you'll learn all about what they have to offer. I was listening to The Point the other day, and they were talking about Victory Men's Health as well, what they go over there for. Moon talked about some of the vitamin infusions programs that he's been getting. I get vitamins sent to my home each and every month. It's a super easy process. For me, I went over there and did the micronutrient lab, found out where I was a little bit deficient. They helped me out with that. For you, maybe unlocking your inner champion looks a little different, whether that's weight loss goals that you're looking to meet, erectile dysfunction issues that you're dealing with, or, yes, low testosterone. It's a real thing. A lot of guys my age and especially older deal with it. They can check those levels for you over at Victory Men's Health. Easy process to do so. Check them out online. It's at victorymenshealth.com. When you get there, click on that top right corner of the page. It says book now. Put in your name, email, phone number. Tell them BK with the 101 ESPN sent you, and tell them what it means for you to unlock your inner champion. It's all available for you today at Victory Men's Health and online at victorymenshealth.com.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Cardinals fell to the Rockies yesterday 8-4, and earlier today they designated the starter from that game, Erick Fedde, for assignment and have recalled Andre Gurnier. Cardinals back in action here in just about an hour and a half as 2:10 will be first pitch today. Andre Palante will be on the mound for St. Louis. The Sports Center update is driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. SEMALauto.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
The minute Fedde pitched that complete game, he should have been on the trading block while he was on a high. Why did they let it get to this situation? This whole situation is a product of slow-mo.
How's Janet on the mic drop feature over on the 101 ESPN app? That's sponsored
Janet.
by Scott Lee Heating.
I need more Janet in my life.
If you guys would like to get your thoughts in on the Erick Fedde situation, if you missed it, he has officially been designated for assignment today. You can do so via the mic drop feature as well. That's on the free 101 ESPN app. That 101 ESPN app is sponsored by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. All right, Alex, so they made the decision. It was a necessary move. We said it in our open today. I don't think there was any other move to make. You had to designate Erick Fedde for assignment. If nothing else, it buys you time. It is worth noting, for anybody that's not familiar with the way this process works, they can still trade Erick Fedde. I saw somebody, one of my Royals friends, said, I'd probably take a look at him.
Oh, please.
Well, you have Rich Hill.
They started Rich Hill yesterday.
Yeah, he was fine.
Yeah.
Fedde's not doing that yesterday.
They're probably going to trade Seth Lugo, and they have no pitching depth. Like, there's going to be a team, I do believe, and I bet T-Bone on this, I think somebody's going to take a chance on Fedde. Not because he's good, but because he's relatively cheap, and he knows how to throw a baseball at the big league level. Not well a lot of the time, but they could go out there, and if you're not a contender, if you don't care what happens the rest of the way, and you don't have any of the young guys that the Cardinals have in Michael McGreevy to take that spot in your rotation, somebody's got to pitch, man. Somebody's got to take on these innings, and he's a guy that can do it. So I think they'll probably trade him. Alex, what was your reaction today when you saw it was official? He's going to be DFA'd, and Michael McGreevy almost certainly will take over that spot in the rotation.
Frustration over the fact that it took him this long to make this decision. This decision should have been made couple of weeks ago if you were truly in a contending window. I think you said it best earlier. I think the Cardinals sabotaged themselves. I think they basically said, I don't know if we should be buyers, so let's just keep putting Fedde out there and see what happens. And then now we've gotten to this point. But there is partial excitement because now you get to see McGreevy on a consistent basis now. From now until the end of the season, welcome another guy to the runway conversation. And I think he's probably already established himself as somebody who's in your rotation. But, you know, now you've got three guys moving forward for the Cardinals that you can look at and you say, hey, what's the future look like for these guys? Do we have a lot of guys who fill 4 or 5s? Do we have somebody that's got 3 potential in our rotation? So it's another opportunity to see a player that is hopefully going to impact the team moving forward. But overall, frustration for the Cardinals because this shouldn't have never gotten to this point.
Yeah, I agree with everything there because they were in a playoff spot when he made that. After that last Cubs start where he went 2 innings, they were right in the hunt, right? They were 1 game back of the Padres. They'd been kind of yo-yoing back and forth with them. You're right in this race. And it's clear at that point, like, man, there's nothing to look at in the underlying numbers. Just watching these games, even when he would pitch well, you'd go, my gosh, this is a Houdini act. He's given up 6 hits. He's walking 4 guys, yet somehow only 1 has scored. It's a miracle he's gotten to this point, and his ERA is as low as it is. So finally you think, okay, we're at that point. You can make the move. You've got McGreevy that can come up and make this decision for you a lot easier. The guy that they've been talking about for even a month at that point of, boy, we'd really like to find a way to get McGreevy on this roster. It was easy to know who they were talking about. And instead you just kept self-sabotaging yourself of, okay, let's make sure we don't give ourselves a chance in a game that Fedde goes out there and starts. And I think Alex said it, like, you almost lose the locker room when that happens, right?
For sure.
If you're the guys in that locker room, we're in the middle of a playoff race. And you're telling us that we have to continue to run it out there with Erick Fedde? Everybody in the room can see what we're seeing on the outside.
It's why they've been so outspoken. Like, Wilson Contreras made that comment a couple of days ago for a reason. Because he knows it needs to be said.
Yeah.
And he's one of the very few guys on the team that, what, you gonna trade me?
Yeah,
no trade
I got
clause.
no trade clause.
You gonna bench me? No. Like, I'm one of your best players. So, like, he is in a very good spot to be able to say what it was that he had to say. I do want to. Can we do a little bit of revisionist history? Let's do hindsight's 2020. When you look back at last year's trade deadline, the move that the Cardinals made to acquire Erick Fedde, I think we were all like fine with it at the time. We weren't over the moon excited, but it was exactly what you needed. Erick Fedde at the time was having a good season. He was in the midst of a good season, a comeback season after going overseas, and was pitching well for the Chicago White Sox. Gets here, and honestly, was fine down the stretch. Had a 3.5 ERA for the Cardinals in his 10 starts. He wasn't getting super deep into games. He was apparently exhausted after having thrown 120 innings in the first half of the season for the White Sox. But when you look back on that trade, Alex, Edman, you get Fedde in return. That was the real prize. But then you also get Tommy Pham, technically. How did you feel about it then, and do you feel differently about it today? Just the trade part of it. Let's start there.
Yeah, I mean, the trade part of it, look, to me, I think it was a successful trade. I mean, you gave up something that you had a lot of in your organization. It was already obvious that you needed more playing time from Brendan Donovan or Nolan Gorman, whomever you want to go with there. So you needed to move off of Tommy Edman. You had a lot of those guys. You were getting rid of the plethora of players. And to get back Tommy Pham, who, look, you needed that side of the bat for a hitter. You needed that hitter against pitchers. I think it was against lefties you struggled with, and you just didn't live up to it. But you got Erick Fedde back. It was a controllable piece that was pitching well that you looked at and you said, hey, he's at least somebody we can keep in our rotation for next season and be competitive. So if you're going off of just the trade, I think it was a success.
Yeah, I liked the trade at the time when they made the move because they had 3 needs and they had pretty much stated we are going to be buyers. Now, they did more marginal buying than anything, but that was probably the right decision where they were at. But when he was acquired from the White Sox, I mean, you're talking about a guy that, looking at his numbers, strikeout rate was basically right around league average, which this staff desperately needed. And as you've seen this year, they still desperately need it. And his walk rate was below league average, or above league average, right? He was doing better. It was very good. He was at 6.8% was his walk rate. You look at it now, this year it ballooned all the way up to 10.5%. So something went awry. But he was a very good add for this team. Sonny Gray, Erick Fedde, who had been pitching very well. Like, that felt like a good 1-2 combo to get you to the playoffs. I don't know they were going to do anything if they got to October. Okay. You also acquired Tommy Pham, which they needed a right-handed bat desperately. Like, he was a good, smart addition. It didn't pan out that much for them. They end up just releasing him. And you give him up, and you don't give up anything that's going to impact your team for 2025 and beyond. Because Tommy Edman was hurt, hadn't been playing, and as we've talked about, they were getting to a roster crunch where they were going to have to make a decision on Tommy Edman. So at the time, I really liked the move. I think if you're looking kind of 2020, where they probably should have made the move was in the offseason, which we talked about of, hey, do you trade Fedde? Because his value to me was going to be higher in the offseason than it was going to be at the trade deadline, because he's more of a pitcher that is like a 3 or a 4. Those guys are more valuable, and especially with his contract in the offseason. And then you go out and like re-sign Gibson or Quintana or somebody like that to fill that spot. That's where I think the conversation should go to.
Let's set that aside for a second. Let's set that aside. We're just like to give my thoughts real quick on the trade. I do want to get there, but I want to take these one at a time. Somebody said, nice turd polish, BK. You were all about the dead birds getting Fedde at the deadline. He was terrible in Chicago, just as bad here. Nobody else wanted Fedde but you and John Mozeliak. Just not true.
I was going to say, that is
flat
all
out not true. He had a 3.1 ERA when the Cardinals traded for him. 3.1.
A lot of teams that were
He had been
interesting.
excellent in the first half of the season. That was over the course of 21 starts, and he had thrown 120 innings. He was getting deep into games. He was doing so with efficiency. He was doing so with effectiveness. He was doing so, as T-Bone said, with high strikeout, low walk, soft contact against. He was the exact kind of pitcher that the Cardinals were lacking. It was a smart move at the time, in my opinion. I continue to believe it was the correct move. It did not work. And that's when you get to the offseason, T-Bone, which you were just about to get to there. But, like, the Tommy Edman part of it all, guys, Tommy Edman had a good 3 weeks in L.A. First in October, really good 3-week stretch in October. What are you going to do? And then a great 3-week stretch to start out the season. Has anybody looked at what Tommy Edman has done since, though? Because he's been terrible this year offensively.
I feel like a 650 OPS or something like that.
670 OPS, 11 home runs on the season, 8 of which came over the course of the first month of the season. He has 3 home runs in the last 2 months for the Dodgers. He has not been good for them. He is the exact same player today as he was 2 years ago for the St. Louis Cardinals, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. However, if the Cardinals were running that out there every day, either at second base, shortstop, or in center field, over the options that they currently have in those respective spots, we would all be saying, it's time for somebody younger. It's time for somebody different. They've got to move on from him now. Because you're not starting that version of Tommy Edman over Mason Wynn. You're not starting that version of Tommy Edman over Brendan Donovan. And you're not starting that version of Tommy Edman in center field over Victor Scott. So he had no spot on this roster in 2025. And it became a question of, do we trade it now or do we trade him in the offseason? They capitalized on a guy that they thought could be a starting pitcher for the rest of that season and beyond. And this year he's back at $7.5 million, which fits into the salary model that they were heading to in 2025. This is where we get to the offseason, because I do want to, like I said, kind of take this one by one. When you think about what they did in the offseason, Alex, we talked about it at the time. We were all like, I don't know. I don't know what the best way to play it is. And then T-Bone mentioned, what if you go out there and sign somebody at a cheap rate that could be effectively what Erick Fedde was supposed to be for you this season? And then you trade Erick Fedde to get the assets. And we're all like, yes, makes sense. Go ahead and do that. Here's the problem. All of those guys you could have signed stunk this year. They sucked. Most of them have either been DFA'd since or have retired from Major League Baseball since. So I don't think there was ever going to be a good option for this spot in your rotation. And then it comes down to, we don't know the answer to this. What were you being offered? Were other teams out there clamoring for Erick Fedde to be a part of your rotation? And would it have been better than what you could have realistically been able to acquire for him at this year's deadline? They made a bet on both Fedde and Ryan Helsley. Their bet really failed with Fedde, obviously, for the deadline. And it has not exactly worked out the way that they would have hoped, I would assume, with Ryan Helsley either.
Yeah, well, and to put it into kind of numbers, like Lance Lynn was on Foul Territory a couple of days ago and said, like, basically he was telling teams he wants $8 million plus incentives to sign this year.
which is more than what you're paying to Erick Fedde.
And with incentives, I would imagine you're probably getting closer to $10 or $11 million, depending on what it was for him in terms of starts or pitches or innings. Kyle Gibson, like you mentioned, retired. So the options that the Cardinals realistically could have signed, because other than Quintana, we know how the Cardinals operate in free agency. They sign guys that want to be here. They don't go hard after certain players. So yeah, it made sense for Fedde at $7.5 million for how he pitched down the stretch last season, for how cheap he was, and because you had nothing else in your system that was developed ready to go for you.
Exactly.
And I also have to put into consideration what teams are willing to offer. Like, I don't think the returns were there enough. It's like, does it justify us not having a pitcher this season that's stretched out enough to give us the innings to help us at least be competitive versus what we're going to get in return? And it wasn't there. So you roll the dice, you play craps with Erick Fedde and say, let's see if he's decent for us. Let's see if he's a number 4 starter for us by the trade deadline and just get something back in return.
Yeah, I mean, it is hindsight 2020, but like Quintana's the move that makes sense for them when you look back on this, because his deal was 1 year, $4.25 million with $1 million in incentives. So you basically would have been saving about $2 million on your payroll.
But did he want to be here?
I mean, that's
the question.
I would think he would have wanted to be here because he didn't have a job until like middle of spring, and he'd been here and had success in St. Louis, right? It's not like we're talking about a guy that's never been here at Busch Stadium.
I can't believe that's what he signed for.
And now he had injuries, but you had McGreevy there still as your depth. And yes, we don't know what the Cardinals could have gotten for Erick Fedde. My big point, though, in the offseason at the time was I would think there is more value on his contract, because even if you look at the peek under the hood for his peripherals in 2024, they still were not very good. There is a lot of blue that is still on that Baseball Savant page for him. So
who's this?
Fedde.
Fedde, yeah.
So there was still some concern. I think you still...
I mean, they were really good last year, just to be clear.
There's a lot of blue on his Baseball Savant page.
He didn't get chase, he didn't get whiff, but that was it. Everything else he was pretty good at.
I'm not impressed by that Baseball Savant page because it's mostly blue, but
93rd percentile breaking ball run value, 90th percentile pitching run value. Like, he was really good last year.
I don't know what you guys are looking at. I see yellow.
He was good last year. Let's give credit where it's due. Erick Fedde was good last year.
But to me,
I'm on Baseball Ant. Oh.
What the hell is that?
I don't know. Probably shouldn't.
Are you being serious?
Yeah, probably shouldn't have Googled that. Whoops. That's what happens when you can't type, ladies and gentlemen. That's what happens when you can't type.
Was yellow good on Baseball?
I don't know, man. I don't even think that was the right website.
But the offseason is where you make the move, because there were teams that were reportedly interested that were the smaller market teams, right? Cleveland was in, I think Minnesota, if I remember at the time. But to me, that was where you were going to get better prospect value, because not a lot of teams are going to trade for Fedde that you can watch him and he is a 3-4. Not a lot of teams are looking for that guy at the trade deadline.
I don't know if I agree with that, man. Like, look at this year. Look at the market right now for starters. Look out there. How many are there that are actually what you just talked about? Like 3 starters at minimum.
Hey, pump the brakes. All right, Tone Ranger. Slow that horse.
No.
Buck up on that horse.
I mean it. How many starters are there out there right now that people are excited to
Joe
trade
Ryan's
for?
one.
And it sounds like he's probably not actually available.
Dylan Cease is available now.
Cease would be on that if he's available. Allegedly. Same with Gallen.
How
Kelly.
many of these guys do you think
Kelly.
are actually going to get traded?
I think 2, 3. I think Kelly will be gone. Merrill Kelly.
Sandy Alcantara, Edward Cabrera from Miami.
I don't know if they're going to move Alcantara. I think Ryan's going to get traded, but I don't know why Minnesota. Lugo, if he gets moved, I could see that one.
Absolutely.
That's just 3 that I named right there that I think are realistic possibilities.
It's so rare. Like, there are so few starters that are on the market right now. So few. And this is why I think their calculus was actually, I think, reasonable to expect if we get to the deadline, either maybe Erick Fedde has pitched well. That was also in the range of outcomes, and the Cardinals are a good team. It has obviously not gone that way. Or 2, hey, Erick Fedde pitches okay. He looks like a 3 or a 4, and we can trade him at the deadline because there are very few 3s and 4s that are available as we get closer to the Major League deadline. We've talked about this in previous years with the Cardinals, where it's kind of hard to find those guys. Who is going to be available that fits into what the criteria is that the Cardinals are looking for? Super cheap, cost, like, he would make sense for a lot of teams. And it failed spectacularly. It failed. It blew up in their face. And I think that, to me, the reason I wanted to go back on this, Alex, T-Bone, is because, like, each of these individual moments is like a pressure point, right? Where they could have gone one way or another. I think the first one of trading for Erick Fedde was a more than understandable decision. I think the second one of holding on to Erick Fedde, while maybe 50-50, I think we also have to at least acknowledge there was the 50% where they were going to be right on this. The third pressure point was a couple of weeks ago where they had to make their decision on whether or not to start him in that game against the Cubs. That's the one where I will criticize them. I think the Cardinals got this dead ass wrong, but it took a full year almost for them to get there. Before then, I think a lot of the decision-making process on Erick Fedde was strong and sound, and then they messed it all up over the last couple of weeks. But before then, I think they were mostly in line with what the industry thought of Erick Fedde. Yeah. A really solid, reasonable, mid to back end of the rotation starter that can help you on a super cheap contract.
Yeah. The Cardinals screwed this up 2 weeks ago. That's where this conversation stopped. I don't think they screwed up the offseason. I don't think they screwed up the trade. They screwed up 2 weeks ago when the team was competitive and Erick Fedde was not competitive. And they had somebody who was more competitive for them in their minor league system.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm BK. I'll stop mansplaining, and we'll get to the junk drawer next year on 101 ESPN.
on ESPN. Let's open it up. The Junk Drawer with BK and Ferrario.
Conversation from off air on the air. T-Bone, what are you eating?
Oh, so I was off last week. Went to a winery.
You're off your rocker.
They had pizzas there, so we had some pizza for dinner, and it was a buffalo chicken pizza with just a drizzle of barbecue sauce on it.
Disgusting.
It was delicious.
I think they messed up your order.
Yeah.
No, they didn't.
I do.
It was really good.
Or somebody saw them and they were like, I'm going to get this kid good.
I think it was a misunderstanding where somebody made your pizza. It was the buffalo chicken pizza. And somebody else on the line was like, oh, this is the barbecue pizza. Oh, bleep.
What's the restaurant called?
Make it look right.
I'm getting ready to look it up. I don't remember the name of it.
I'm with BK. I think somebody
This is a screw-up.
I think somebody grabbed the barbecue sauce bottle and it was supposed to be the ranch bottle.
Tuscan Hills
that
Winery.
makes all the sense in the world. That is exactly what happened, Alex. You're 100% correct.
I think that's what happened because we've all been there before at a restaurant.
Yeah.
You pick something up, you're making a Caesar salad, and you're like, oh shoot,
But
that was the ranch.
Once you do it, you
just
got to
go,
commit to it, and you make it seem as though you were supposed to put it on there.
You hope they complain. Buffalo sauce, grilled chicken strips, mozzarella cheese, topped with a drizzle of ranch dressing. They screw your pizza up.
No. Sorry. Sweet and spicy chicken, shredded chicken, buffalo garlic sauce, mozzarella topped with a drizzle of the local barbecue sauce.
That's disgusting.
It was really good.
That's disgusting.
Oh, really good. I recommend.
That's disgusting.
Alex, I also wanted to bring this up because my other buddy sent me a text yesterday with Dewey's Pizza's new featured pizza for this month.
Okay.
I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on this.
I'm a big pizza honk, so you got to get this right.
Well, you've been to Dewey's before, right? They do some off-the-wall kind of ideas.
Not off the wall like buffalo and barbecue sauce.
We'll see how you
They
think of
should.
this. Nashville hot chicken and waffle pizza. Olive oil, mozzarella, pepper jack cheese, Nashville hot chicken, waffle pieces, so like crumbled up pieces of waffle, house pickled jalapenos, and 100% pure maple syrup with a house-made Nashville hot sauce after the bake.
I think I'm out on that. I don't think I could do the syrup on there. The waffle I get, actually, I was thinking they make the pizza crust waffle.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Like waffle pizza crust.
Yeah, I don't know how you would do that.
I mean, it would have to get the waffle done and then you do the pizza and then you cook it. But that's what I was thinking. I'm fine with the waffle chunks on there. I don't like the maple syrup.
Yeah.
But that's part of the chicken and waffle.
Yeah, but see, I don't do chicken and waffles with the syrup.
Oh, really?
I just do it with the chicken and the waffles.
I would try it. I'm kind of with you. The syrup's the one spot. The only thing really on that I'm going, yeah, I don't know about it. I would try it though. I would.
Is the chicken breaded or is it grilled? It's got to be breaded, right? If it's Nashville hot chicken?
Yeah.
Okay. See, that was the other part
chicken.
of it. Because it's like, I need the fried chicken on there.
This sounds awesome to me. I think this
that's good.
sounds amazing.
I think if you did the syrup on the side, I'd be in on it.
Okay.
Maybe
I
did
bet
like
you could probably do
maybe
that.
did like a honey or something on it instead. But you did it on the side, I'd be all in on that
I
one.
bet you could probably ask them and they'd be like, we'll get this on the side.
I would have liked too if they did it like a waffle pizza, like the waffle crust.
I don't know. I still don't because when you burn the waffle, if you put it back in there.
No, you have to make the waffle like underdone a little bit so that when you put it on there, then you put it in.
Somebody on the text line said, this is BK supporting the DeWitts again by promoting Dewey's, not slipping that past me, my guy. Do the DeWitts still own Dewey's?
Do they?
I have no idea. I didn't think so. Do they?
I genuinely have no clue. I have no idea. If they do, I did not know that.
Let's find out.
I don't care, Cardinals fans. I'd still try
Andrew DeWitt.
It's originating in Cincinnati, so that makes sense. I guess it makes sense. Dewey's Pizza, the DeWitts. I had no idea.
Oh,
that they owned
yeah,
it.
he's a DeWitt. Looks just like him.
I had no clue.
Looks just like him.
Huh. Well, yeah,
You're
they
a
should
jerk.
pay me. I
You're a
should
jerk.
support their brand.
Yeah.
I would do it.
I need to reach out to BD3. Say, hey, let's get some advertising going. I need to start supporting Dewey's
I don't
Pizza
think
a
how
little
this
bit
show
more.
goes with the DeWitts that it would actually.
I do appreciate personally that they are after my heart of using not Provel cheese. So that is personally one of the main reasons
you need
why
to get
I
the
love
hell
them.
out of here with your Provel cheese hate.
And it's just not for me.
Everyone I talk to loves Provel cheese. You're crazy.
I had no
Ooh,
idea.
damn, they got another good one on this menu. Socrates' Revenge.
Dude, they've got some good stuff over
Olive
at
oil,
Dewey's.
minced garlic, mozzarella, fontina,
Solid
spinach,
spot.
black olives, green olives, feta cheese, red onions, tomatoes. Oh,
Dewey's is good. They've got one right off of 5th Street out in St. Charles. If you ever want to go, Alex, I'm happy to go with you.
One in St. Charles.
See if they have one close to mine.
It's off of Beale Street over Streets of St. Charles area. Not the main street area, but the other way.
I typed in my zip code and it said error, so I guess we're not by me. Damn it.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Major League Baseball trade deadline. Roundup! Yeah! Coming up next here on 101 ESPN. Yeah! 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. It is time for your Major League Baseball trade deadline Roundup! Yeah! You didn't come with me on that one.
No, I already did it. I don't need to do that again.
All right, let's go ahead and get to some of these from ESPN.com. An update from Jeff Passan on your Cardinals.
Oh, yeah?
As much as St. Louis would like to move Nolan Arenado and Erick Fedde, suitors aren't lining up yet.
Joke's on him. We already moved Erick Fedde.
Sonny Gray and Miles Mikolas have no trade clauses, don't intend to go anywhere, which leaves a trio of relievers who should bring solid returns. That includes right-handed relievers Ryan Helsley and Phil Maton, plus left-hander Steven Matz. He continues, were this not John Mozeliak's swan song as president of baseball operations, perhaps he would be open to sending out one of the Cardinals' young position players, but with Chaim Bloom set to take over after the season, that is likelier to be the sort of thing on his to-do list. Anything surprise you or stand out to you there, Alex?
Yeah, that Nolan Arenado's not going anywhere. Thought there might be a shot at that one happening, but other than that, no. Those are the three guys that make sense, and it's kind of what we assumed. John Mozeliak's not moving any of these young guys. That's going to be Chaim Bloom's decision to do in the offseason once we move on. So, biggest one for me is Nolan Arenado. Now, at least teams lining up to acquire him. And I thought that was different, or going to be a different case.
Nothing really surprises me there. They're going to shop out their free agent relievers. A little surprised there was nothing in there about Joe Romero. He's the one that I would throw in with control that they might listen on, but I'm not surprised that there's no interest in Nolan Arenado. He's paid like a superstar. He's not a superstar, and the way the Cardinals are operating with their purse, I don't think they're going to eat a ton of money to make a deal happen.
Someone commented and said, what an awful swan song if this is it for John Mozeliak. Well, we DFA'd Fedde my last year.
Yeah. He's got that going for him. All right, teams that need a third baseman, according to Jeff Passan, in case somebody does emerge in the conversation for Nolan Arenado. He says the Yankees, the Cubs, the Mariners, and the Mets all looking for potential third base additions at this year's deadline. Do want to get to this as well. This comes from The Athletic. I don't know if you guys saw this, but apparently the Dodgers are having even bigger issues with their bullpen lately.
Sorry, I looked over and saw your stupid glasses.
What's wrong?
Nothing, man.
It looks like Tanner Scott's going to miss some time. He also had not been particularly good. Are the Dodgers where you're kind of aiming right now if you're John Mozeliak to get something in return for Ryan Helsley? Is that your most likely landing spot? Or are you trying... Is the goal to get the Dodgers and the Phillies to bet against one another?
Yeah, and see if there's another team that falls into that race. If there were 5 teams that were interested in Ryan Helsley from Bob Nightingale's report, sorry, T-Bone's got him too. I got the normal glasses on. I'm going to look down. If there were 5 teams originally interested in this, my goal, John Mozeliak, is like, I'm open for business. Let's make this like a flea market. Everybody start one up on each other to see what I get the best price on. But yeah, the Dodgers, the Phillies are probably the 2 teams you hope are bidding against each other so that you can get the best return possible.
Yeah, you're hoping that you get the Dodgers, the Phillies, maybe one other team in there. Padres might be a team that could be looking for some bullpen help.
Blue Jays probably should be in there too.
The Tigers are another one that you want to get involved in this. They've got a pretty good farm system, so you want to try and get that bidding up because I think if you just had one team interested in Helsley, you'd get a good return. If you're going to get a great return, it's because a bidding war starts for him because he hasn't been the same guy he was last year. There's still going to be a ton of value for it.
Mentioned earlier the Padres potentially listening to offers on starting pitcher Dylan Cease. He's on an expiring deal, eligible for free agency at the end of the season. Quote, perception of other teams is that the Padres are intent on making a push for the playoffs and would use Cease to help fill other roster needs. The Mets, AL East teams, Cubs among the teams that have talked to them about it. That is according to Buster Olney. That is not the only thing that the Padres are apparently in on. According to Hector Gomez, the trade talks between the Padres and Braves have intensified. The Padres are, quote, very interested in, quote, in landing Marcell Ozuna. Ooh. According to the source, the Braves would receive their number 18 and 21 prospects in their system, both of whom are right-handed.
Mike Schilt wants his boy back. Mike Schilt wants his cleanup hitter back.
Put
is what
him
that
left,
is.
Mike, you won't.
Yeah, that's a Gold Glove caliber outfielder there, Mike.
That would be a good move for the Padres.
Yeah, that's what you're trying to fill the lack with right now. If you could get 2 offensive pieces, one with Marcell Ozuna and another by trading Dylan Cease, make yourself dangerous.
You know, we were talking about Helsley's value. A guy that could be moved by Atlanta as well as Iglesias. I wonder if the Cardinals are going to wait to see what Iglesias gets on the market first and then see if they can try and top it. But I wouldn't be shocked if the Padres try and do one-stop shopping with Atlanta because that's been Preller's MO. Like, you think of the Soto trade, he didn't just get Juan Soto. He got Josh Bell, which helped him in that deal as well. So, but yeah, you're right. I mean, they need some offense, and Ozuna still provides a punch even though he's just a DH.
Wonder if they would consider trying for Ozzy Albies as well. He would make some sense.
Yeah, I could see it.
I don't know that he's a huge upgrade offensively, but he doesn't hurt.
He's been struggling this year. I wonder if Atlanta's going to hold on to him just to see if they can reboost his value before trying to make a move.
Next thing up here, I do want to listen to a little bit of audio. This comes from Ken Rosenthal on Foul Territory yesterday, talking about some pitchers that might be on the market.
They're totally open for business on Severino, Sears, and Springs. Now, They're not going to give them away, obviously. And each pitcher is a little bit different. Sears is a guy who hasn't had great results this year and even last year, but takes the ball. He is every fifth day. That guy is there. Springs is someone who has pitched much better of late, though his last start wasn't quite as good. And Severino, of course, is the guy who at Sutter Health Park is one pitcher and on the road is another. A lot of money still coming to him. So these guys are all different, but can they be discussed in trades? Will they be discussed? Are the A's drawing interest in them? Yes, yes, and yes.
Any interest in Severino, Springs, or Sears from the Sacramento Athletics?
The Sacramento Athletics. No. I liked Severino in the offseason, not for how much money he's going to be getting paid. And he has not been very good, but like you said, it's been terrible.
When he pitches on the road, he's real good. 3.1 ERA. When he pitches at home, a 7 ERA.
Yeah, but to me,
Erick Fedde.
To me, none of those guys move the needle in the right direction for the Cardinals in a trade and what you'd have to give up. So, no, I'm out on all those.
Yeah, I think I'm out on all these guys as well. Springs is interesting because in the past, he's had some pretty good strikeout stuff. Like you look back when he was a starter with the Rays in 2022, 9.6 strikeouts per 9. And when he was in the bullpen, he really had it as well. But I don't think I want to give up anything significant for a guy that's been struggling, and the strikeout stuff is diminished this year. So, yeah, I'm out.
If I'm going to look at any of these guys, I would actually be interested in Sears probably just because he is the youngest of the group. But he is kind of classic Cardinals pitcher in that there's not a whole lot of strikeout stuff there and a whole lot of I don't walk anybody stuff there. So he's also little. Just a little guy.
No, we don't need no tiny guys on this team.
He's kind of reminiscent of another former A's pitcher in that regard in Sonny Gray. So
we already got little guys is what you're telling me.
I don't think any of them make a whole lot of sense for the Cardinals. So that is today's edition of your Major League Baseball trade deadline Roundup.
What's wrong, partner?
We lost a rider. We lost a horse.
Jagger BK fell off the horse.
Oh, boy.
Just leave him.
Trying to do that with these glasses on.
Yeah, remember when you duct taped me to a chair and kept putting those on all day? That was rough.
Tough, man. I can't see anything.
Can't see with this thing on. Name that movie.
That's a movie?
Can't see with this thing on. Can't see.
Come on.
Can't see with this
Sports movie. 90s.
Is that Little Giants?
Little Giants. Yes. There we go.
Yes.
But, oh my God, I can't believe you've never seen Little Giants?
You've never seen Little Giants?
I've never even heard of Little Giants.
Oh, dude, I could have seen you as an actor in the Little Giants.
Yeah, you could have been
today.
The guy.
Today, you could have been an actor in the Little Giants.
You could have been the guy that screamed, I can't see with this thing on. You'll have to go back and watch it.
T-Bone will understand that joke in about 5 years when he watches the movie. All right, coming up in 15 minutes, we're going to get into some NFL quick hitters. But next, we'll finish up some of your mic drops. The Cardinals made the move official today. They have designated for assignment their starting pitcher previously, Erick Fedde. We'll talk a little bit about that, hear from you guys as well. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. Mic drops via the Scott Lee Heating mic drop feature on the 101 ESPN app. That's next. BK. If you guys missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out at the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you can go to find it. That's all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
If you want to go back and listen, you can hear our immediate reaction right after the news broke that Erick Fedde has been designated for assignment. And the way this works, they could still they could still go out there and...
Who they making out with?
Yeah, I know. I misspoke, and it was a funny
We were
misspeak.
talking about a lot of heartthrobs from the 90s in our childhood, so I can understand why makeout was on your mind.
Yeah, it's a Freudian slip. So you can still work out a trade if you'd like with another team. They're obviously not going to get anything of significance in return, but they could still do that technically. But the important part for Cardinals fans is that he's not going to start again for your team. And that's ultimately what matters. Do want to hear from some of you guys on your reaction to the news today, and moreover, how this impacts your view of John Mozeliak long term, because this was a sore spot for Cardinals fans, Alex. There are very rarely times where it's 100-0, where everybody is aligned saying this is the wrong way to handle something. Typically, you'll be able to find a voice in the wilderness, and a lot of the times, frankly, it's me that will defend something when a lot of people are arguing against it. You couldn't really find that on this. Everybody was in alignment. Erick Fedde starting these last couple of games for the Cardinals was the wrong call.
Yep.
It just didn't make any sense. There was no real explanation that would hold up to scrutiny for it. And I think that is something that fans have internalized. So we do want to hear from you guys. Mic drop features on the 101 ESPN app. T-Bone, can we start out with Courtney, his mic drop on this?
Let me start off by saying I kind of stopped caring maybe 2 years ago and just realized that this front office has no idea about what it needs to do to become a winning organization. And if they do know, then they're not making the effort to do so. And it's showing. And I have many questions to ask, but I don't have enough time in this mic drop to ask. And I don't think they would be answered anyway based off the arrogance of this front office.
Yeah, checks out. What's weird about it is I actually was Courtney this offseason at the start of the season, where it was I was just numb to it. I didn't really care. But the Cardinals pulled me in at the early portion of the season because their offense actually looked like something that was worth investing into, because they just had that fight in them. I'm not saying the fight has disappeared, but to me, that start against the Atlanta Braves, and really you could even go to the Cubs one before that, but that start against the Atlanta Braves is where, in my opinion, Mo lost a lot of people. It probably lost that clubhouse if you were to ask them on Truth Serum, because everyone in that clubhouse realized where they were in the standings, realized how they were playing and what was in front of them, but also looked at the decision that was made by the front office that said, nope, Fedde is better for us to start now than McGreevy, and said, well, then if you don't care, why should we care? Not saying that they don't care, but that's how you lose a group of players.
That's so frustrating, man. When he took that last start, they were 48-42. They were 6 games above 500, big series on the road, 4th of July weekend, a couple of nationally televised games, including that game that he started on ESPN. Just everything you could possibly ask for as a fan, it was still right there for you. And this is coming off of a sweep at the hands of the Pittsburgh Pirates, where he just played horrible baseball for a few days. Still had everything right in front of you. And we could still convince ourselves at the time, they could buy. Soft buyers, but they could buy nonetheless, try to improve this roster for now and potentially also for the future. And then Fedde goes out and takes that start. It's like, man, what are we doing here? What are we doing? And I think the team probably viewed it the exact same way, where they're looking around like, that guy doesn't give us the best chance to win. That's all players ask for.
Yeah.
It's just, this has to be a meritocracy. We understand this is not your typical Cardinals season, but try to put the best players on the field that give us a chance to win. Hell, Ollie was doing that with Jordan Walker being removed from the game in 2023 when they were terrible. He was still getting removed from the game, and I asked him about it because I disagreed with it. I was ranting and raving about it here on the radio, and I asked him, I was like, can you explain to me why you're doing this? He's like, well, here's the reason. How do you feel if you're one of the veterans? You're Paul Goldschmidt, you're Nolan Arenado, and you're busting your ass every day, and you found a way to potentially put your team into a position to win. And then your best chance to win is not with him in right field right now, because he was struggling at the time defensively. and we leave him out there and he misses a play that ultimately loses us the game. It's like, for me, my job is to put us in the best position to win, and that's the way that we can do that. I don't feel as though they put themselves in the best position to win over the last few weeks.
Yeah.
And that is really frustrating as a fan. Yeah. To understand that and to know they probably felt the same way internally, but they felt like they had to start him to maintain some level of trade value, which clearly was never likely to be there.
And that's the part that baffles me. I don't know how ownership was okay with that. Like, how does ownership not step in? Because we know, like, the DeWitts are very a part of these conversations. You have a team that at least is breathing some life into a fan base that just has not been there for the last few years. Again, the ballpark hasn't shown it, but you know what? You were better offensively than what you've been for the last 3 years. You were close to a playoff spot. Last year, you were closer to the playoff spot at the deadline, and you actually made the trade for Fedde. How as ownership can you look at that and say, what are we doing? The goal is to try and get a little bit more life for our fan base to want to come back to the ballpark. And you know how you do that? You get a playoff berth. And you're going to throw Fedde out there for another start when McGreevy gives us a better chance to win?
And is more of like, he's in line with what the season's supposed to be about.
You held 15 press conferences about it, about the developing youth. And yes, you did do the good part about being patient with these guys for a couple of years. But now's the time to just take the leash off and let Michael McGreevy go. That's the part that baffles me about the decision to let Fedde start 2 more times.
All right, we got this from Hard Bodied. How is it the wrong call? You're not getting anything for him. They were trying to put him out there so someone could see something out of him, allow it, and now it backfired. But what else were they supposed to do? I responded. I said, skip a start. That's what we all asked for. Like, just skip the start here. Go to Michael McGreevy.
Rogue injury.
You had 1 day before the All-Star break, so you could have made it work to where McGreevy gets that start. You don't have to make roster moves otherwise. You just basically play a man down. They've done this before. Hell, they did it yesterday, basically. You play with a man down, effectively, for the last couple of days going into the All-Star break. They responded, how does skipping a start show anyone else that he has value? He can't show anyone if he has value if he doesn't pitch. Sure. Sorry. We know what Erick Fedde is, man. These other teams were not going to change their opinion of him based upon what he did in 2 starts before the trade deadline.
They saw the 5 previous starts where he was Houdiniing every single game he took the mound.
His value is this, and I think there's still going to be a team that bets on this value. His value is, very simply, he will go out there and give you a few innings and hopefully a little bit more, and maybe you fix him and he becomes a little better than that. But more importantly, he's going to go out there and give you a few innings.
Yeah.
And hopefully help you out of the help you stay away from the bullpen the way that you would otherwise have to use it if you did a traditional opener. That's it. Fedde's value right now is you don't have to go to an opener, and instead this guy will carry that load for you. So you'll completely burn your bullpen that day. He'll throw 90 pitches, whatever. That's the value to another team. That was the value before he took these starts. It's the value today. There was never a way, realistically speaking, for him to change that. I think what they did, it wasn't about him going out there and pitching well. I think they knew he wasn't going to. I think they were of the opinion that if they skip a start, teams will think they're hiding something. Teams will think there is an injury here that they're not telling us about. I think that's nonsense because they get the medicals, man. It's not a situation where you can hide something. Look at Jack Flaherty last year. There was a deal that was almost done with the Yankees. Something medically was flagged, and the Yankees said, no. Carlos Correa literally signed with the Giants. Giants saw that there were termites in his ankle and were like, no, we're going to go ahead and back out of this deal. Huh?
And the Mets. He had to have him twice.
Exactly. It's like this. Anyways, I want to stick with this. We've got a couple other mic drops from the 101 ESPN app. We can get to NFL quick hitters tomorrow. We'll continue hearing from you on Erick Fedde and how you're feeling today as he has officially been designated for assignment here on BK and Ferrario.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Last night, Cardinals fell to the Colorado Rockies 8-4, and then early this morning, they DFA'd the starter from that game, Erick Fedde, and recalled Andre Granillo. They will be in action again, trying to take 2 of 3 from Colorado today. 2:10 will be first pitch as Andre Palante gets to start for St. Louis today. The Sports Center update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Canceling events at the zoo?
Yeah, they just tweeted this out because this is actually something that my wife thought, might be fun to take the girls to some point. It's called Romeo and Juliet at the zoo, where they have like a puppet show where they reenact like Romeo and Juliet. They just tweeted out they're canceling the shows tonight and tomorrow because of extreme heat. And they said, weather permitting, they'll open up again on Friday. Not the zoo is closing, but they're closing this event in the evening.
Yeah, and my wife wanted to go to Lumineers. Yeah. Absolutely
So tell
not.
your wife we're not going
chance.
out. They're canceling things because
so
it's too hot out.
I shouldn't go to the Cardinal game tomorrow like I was planning?
I promised my
girls.
girls.
Sweet? They couldn't pay me to go outside in that heat.
I know. I'm going down there like media-wise to just go down for the pregame availability, and it's like I don't even know if I want to go down for that for how hot it's going to be.
Dirty little secret, that press box is hotter than outside.
Oh, yeah.
During this time of the year. I don't know what they've done to that AC, but whenever they ask for your money to improve that stadium,
please think of
I would like you to think of Alex, Tanner, and myself, because when we go into that press box, boy.
Well, and then there's always
let's be honest, it's really bad.
There's always that jerk, too, that leaves that wants the window open to make it even hotter and bring all that in. I used to sit, when I was doing KMOX, I'd sit down in our broadcast booth behind home plate, and I would watch the game on television because it was so freaking hot up top.
All right, so we asked for your mic drops on the 101 ESPN app to talk about Erick Fedde, him getting DFA'd, and really what led to this decision, which is the last couple of starts that he took, either before or after the All-Star break. Let's hear from Brendan.
Runway season, runway season, runway season. How about we give Chaim Bloom some runway? Enough with the Mozeliak mindset around this roster. Either commit to winning or commit to youth. Fedde and Michaelis do neither. Figure it out.
You think he's mad?
I think he's a little upset. I would say Brendan, on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think, a 7.5?
That feels a little.
Oh, no, 9.5. 9.9. I mean, that man yelled into his mic drop.
Is Michaelis the next guy that'll get the anger from fans?
Oh, yeah.
That's coming?
Yeah.
Now that Fedde's gone.
Yeah, luckily for Michaelis, Fedde was just kind of the scapegoat, so he didn't have to get called out by people.
At least I go 5 innings.
Well,
guys.
and the problem for Michaelis, too, that's it. Like, Michaelis has the problem afterwards where he gives up 2 massive home runs, and he's like, oh, look, other than those 2 home runs that I gave up 5 runs on, I think I pitched a great game.
I would say there are 2 things that are in his favor. One, there's not an obvious alternative. Like with Fedde, you could say it's Fedde or McGreevy.
Yeah.
And the alternative looks much better. I'm not totally sure who that alternative is for Michaelis right now.
Leahy.
You could have argued TK Roby, but he's on the injured list now.
I think Leahy pitched the way he did last night is going to make people look at Michaelis differently.
Would you rather see one of these 3? Michaelis, Leahy, or Graceffo in a starting role for the Cardinals the rest of the year?
I'd rather go Leahy or Graceffo than Michaelis.
Okay.
Yeah, I would lean more Leahy. Graceffo stuff doesn't even play in the bullpen right now. He still gets hit around pretty hard, so I don't think it'd work as a start. Leahy, we've seen, has spurts where he's really good, so I'd answer Leahy on that.
All right, let's hear from, is this Derek?
Derek.
It's spelled differently. I was a little confused.
There's an A. I don't know if that's right.
Oh, yeah. That could totally be T-Bone doesn't know how to spell.
No, I know. Derek. I'm reading the mic drop.
Does he say my name's Derek with an A?
It could have also said, it could have also been Derek. I don't know, but it's something along those lines.
That would be D apostrophe. Yeah, come on, man.
There's no apostrophe in the app.
Okay, thank you.
That's D Erick.
Not trading Erick Fedde in the offseason was malpractice, dude. Teams were paying out the butt to get mid-rotation starting pitching in the offseason. I mean, I remember you guys talking about that on your show. You couldn't believe how much teams were giving up for these starting pitchers. Erick Fedde was coming off a career year. He was only owed $7 million. They could have gotten an absolute haul for this guy in the offseason. Instead, they decided to hold on to him, even though they're purportedly going through a youth movement and wanting to free up spots so that they can give young guys opportunities. But instead, oh no, we're going to let this old guy who could get us a haul, hoard this spot, and then turns out he's going to suck it up for half a season, drive the Cardinals out of a playoff spot. Now we're left DFAing him for nothing. Thanks for the parting gift, Mo. You couldn't help but give us one last absolute boneheaded move on your way out the door.
He used dude 2 seconds into that.
I liked that mic drop.
First of all, one part of disagree. You were getting a haul for Erick Fedde in the offseason.
I don't think so.
Let's redefine the word haul, because you weren't getting that for Erick Fedde, regardless if people were paying out the butt, as Derek would say, for the mid-tier pitchers.
So, can I give you the, I would say, silver lining of the way that the Cardinals handled all of this, Alex? You want me to use these?
Yeah.
I feel like that's a fast lane bit, but I'll go ahead and steal it. That's fine.
Put the conductor
If
hat on
I was
too.
going to explain why the Cardinals keeping Erick Fedde and continuing to start him, and him being one of the worst pitchers in Major League Baseball, was actually good for the Cardinals, I would do so by saying the following. The best thing for this organization long term, and we all knew this in our heart of hearts, long term is probably for this team to sell at the deadline, right? To get assets in return for Ryan Helsley, for whoever, Steven Matz, for Phil Maton, potentially for anybody else that is expiring deals, or Jojo Romero, for example. The best thing for them long term is to cash in their chips at the deadline and to continue really trying to win in 26, 27, and 28. This team was never going to win something meaningful in the postseason. The goal was always just to get to the postseason. And what Erick Fedde, throwing batting practice all year, allowed you to do, Alex, is you have made the decision by July, the 23rd? I've got red glasses on right now. It's hard for me to see.
Yeah, that's right.
You have made the decision by July 23rd, because of his own incompetence, that you are going to be a seller. When the Cardinals had anybody other than Erick Fedde start a game this season, they are a well above league average team. They were 47 and 35. When Erick Fedde starts, they were 5 and 15. Their winning percentage when he was not on the mound was essentially the exact same as the Philadelphia Phillies. So you were a playoff team when he's not out there. So if you want to look at the silver lining, Erick Fedde being this bad has actually allowed them to make what is probably, despite my own self-interests and my emotional view of the team, it is probably the most prudent decision for the team long term, which is to sell at the deadline and to continue to build for 26 and beyond. That would be my side.
I agree with that sell. I mean, like, look, with Ryan Helsley, I was pretty steadfast all season. Like, you have to be listening on him regardless of where you're at in the standings, because of how good of an asset you have and where you're at as an organization. And to me, if you were a game out of a playoff spot and the Cardinals were like, you know what, this team's worth investing in, as much as I think it would have been good for the younger players to get that experience, it would have been malpractice by the Cardinals to keep Ryan Helsley and just take that comp pick, because I think you could have got something potentially better than that on the market. Now, it's still a lottery pick, but it may be closer to the major league. So I do see the positives in that front, as much as people are frustrated that John Mozeliak kept him and kept running him out there this season.
Yeah, it is a weird kind of blessing in disguise, potentially, when you look at it that way.
It's like what you've said about them. Like, if they had made the playoffs last year, would they have done this same transition period? And the answer is probably no. They probably just keep trying the same way that they were previously, patching up these holes. Last year, what happened probably forced them into the situation they're in today.
Yeah, so they've had like 2 weird inflection points over the last 2 years that have helped them get to what's probably ultimately the right call for the organization in the long run. But man, one thing that is tough for me is I said this early on in the year when we were having the conversation of, while they were in a playoff spot, do you still trade Ryan Helsley? And for me, it is, man, these kind of shots just don't come around very often, right? Like, yeah, maybe we don't believe in them, but like, they could have been a playoff team. And if they're going to sell me on the notion of, hey, if you just get in, anything can happen, then why would I not move on from Fedde sooner to really help fortify the rotation spot and hopefully just stabilize that one spot to where we end up being not the Phillies, but a little bit better than some of these other wildcard teams, and get in and then at least give ourselves a shot. Maybe go to the deadline. There are arms like Merrill Kelly, for example. I keep bringing him. He is the perfect Cardinal because he's cheap and he's got good stuff that they could have acquired at the deadline for not a whole lot. But instead, they sabotage themselves into the spot that ultimately probably is the right call for the organization.
We got this from the 314. It's totally unrelated to anything we just said, but they said, can you guys believe that the Rockies, with one of the worst teams in baseball history, have a higher attendance than the best fans in baseball? I don't know what's going on out in Colorado, but they seem to really love baseball.
Well, nothing, so that's why you go to Colorado.
I mean,
I think we call them the BFIB.
there's a ton to do in Denver, but they seem to keep going to these games. Their team stinks. The stadium's great. I'm going to a game there in a few weeks.
It's one of my favorites.
I don't totally understand why people continue to go to the games, but man, they get decent attendance. They've won 25 of their first 101 games. 25. And they've been horrible
Beer's
for
gotta be
quite
cheap.
a while right now. They do. They have this. They have similar to the Budweiser Terrace. It's $3 beers prior to first pitch, and I'm very excited.
So there you go.
about that.
Where do you go to get that cheap a beer with nice weather and that atmosphere?
And I think it's bigger than the one the Cardinals have because I think it's like the whole upper deck there in right field.
Upper right field. It's awesome. I'm super excited about it. But yeah, other than that, I don't know.
And I bet their game day experience is awesome. I would imagine. I got stuff.
You trying to get me and T-Bone to go at it again?
Yeah.
With
kinda.
Alex and
It's
T-Bone
more
on
fun
BK,
for me.
The Rewind is next year on 101
Don't go to a game
ESPN.
for that.
Daily Rewind on BK and Ferrario. Brought to you by Gloria Loom, your home sold guaranteed realty. Selling your home begins at GloriaHasTheBuyers.com.
I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. If you guys missed anything from today's show, I think it's been a pretty fun one. I would say a 7.2, scale of 1 to 10.
It's been a lot of negativity, so I'll give it a 6.8.
Okay, T-Bone?
I'll go 7. I think we're at our best when we're negative.
I think it's been a good show.
We are pretty
overall.
good when we're negative.
You can check out the podcast on 101ESPN.com or the free 101 ESPN app or on YouTube at youtube.com/101ESPN STL. We're trying to get those numbers up, so if you have not subscribed yet, please do so. That's the place where you can go get the Redbird Report as well. We'll be recording a new one tomorrow for you.
Alex man.
Always has the Last Minute Blues podcast. They've got some really good guests lined up. I'm no BSing about this. I typically just give them crap about a show, but they legitimately have some really excellent guests coming up, so you're going to want to tune in
why you
for
give
that.
us crap? I mean, great numbers, man.
They're wonderful numbers. That's the only reason why. I'm punching up.
Oh, okay.
I'm punching up.
Like Mario. You got to get up there. Get
Never
that mushroom.
punch down, always punch up. All right, to finish out the show today, Alex, let's react to the game from last night, and then we'll start talking about today. Not good. Erick Fedde, so bad that he's
what
gone.
you're going to label it as?
Designated for assignment. Your overall reaction to where the Cardinals find themselves now. 2 games above 500 heading into tonight.
I mean, to me, they're sellers still. Like, they've fallen into this, and it doesn't matter if they win this series and then go play San Diego and win 3 or 4. I think John Mozeliak has kind of made it clear where this team is at. Last night was just, in my opinion, part of the... I think it's going to be a big chunk of how people remember John Mozeliak and his front office tenure with the Cardinals. And it's not going to be the success early on. It's not going to be the tons of winning seasons. It's going to be the decisions or the lack of decisions that he has made over the last 3 or 4 years that have plagued the Cardinals and put them in this position moving forward.
A symptom, not the root cause. Yeah, it's just symbolic of so much that's gone wrong.
But on the Cardinals side, like, I would say put a heavy bet on the Cardinals to win tonight. Like, if you're going to invigorate
Palante.
Trust me on this one.
Yeah, but I don't trust Palante.
Fine, Palante. I like that.
Tanner Gordon in 3 starts at the major league level this year. 17 innings, 8 earned runs, 4.2 ERA. He's done that against Detroit, New York, and Chicago Cubs.
Is he a lefty?
We can't hit that guy.
He's a righty. He bats left, so he's technically a left-handed hitter.
Man, if we see that tonight, then things have gone way wrong.
The old
Originally from Champaign, Illinois, T-Bone.
Oh, you know he's a stud.
He's a big boy. 6'5", 220.
Not a little guy?
Where'd he go to college?
I just think this is at least a move.
That was it. That was what I had.
I think this is one of those moves
baseball reference page
that at least the locker room now has a little bit of like, okay,
Indiana,
now we can go.
And John A. Logan College in Illinois.
Yeah, John A. What a traitor
You know,
to go
guys,
to
I'm just
Indiana.
gonna duck on out of here.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said about Fedde though. Before you leave, it's frustrating. I don't think they win tonight. I think they've got Palante on the mound. I think it's too late to salvage the locker room. Right? They're saying all the right things. Man, your season was lost when they started him against the Braves. I think that's when it occurred. That was the moment that you can kind of put the star on. They were already kind of trying to just keep afloat because they really struggled in the month of June. But, man, when then you add then on top of, hey, we're just going to keep throwing out a guy that doesn't give you a real chance to win, that is hard to stomach.
What did
Admiral
you text us?
Pager said this show...
What?
Yeah, you heard me.
You can't say that.
This show is the Fedde of the ESPN lineup. Time for reassignment. I don't feel like that's fair. Yeah. I think we are more like the...
I think we're the Matthew Liberatore. Just...
I think we're more like Andre Palante. Once upon a time, people were like, man, this guy can do anything. Where would this team be without him? And then now they're like, should we replace him? Are they good enough?
You must be talking about yourself.
You know?
I see T-Bone and I as the Matthew Liberatore. I see T-Bone and I as the Quinn Matthews, the Liam Doyles.
I don't know that you want to be Quinn Matthews this year.
Well,
you want to be last year's Quinn Matthews.
You're Quinn Matthews because you're Quinn Matthews. You're injured a lot.
Maybe that's it.
You're injured a lot.
The guys that flew through the system got a chance, and I was like, let's slow it down.
That's this guy. That's this guy. I'm the Jamie Moyer. I just keep coming around.
Who's got a tone in the Cardinals locker room? That's who BK is.
Jack Flaherty.
That's Michaelis, yes.
Oh, yeah, and you say things that like makes it look like it's not as bad when we all see how ugly it was.
We're playing checkbook baseball, but we got this.
Well, other than those 2 home runs that gave up the 6 earned runs, I think I pitched pretty well tonight.
There are some probably that still like Michaelis, right? Some?
In that locker room, yes.
Yeah, I think the guys like Michaelis.
You almost said Michael McGreevy.
They do like Michael McGreevy. We can confirm they definitely like Michael McGreevy.
We all heard the chime-ins from the locker rooms that weren't getting asked the questions.
All right, if you guys missed any of the show, check it out on the podcast page. Cardinals versus the Rockies once again tonight. Cardinals hoping to become, did you say there's only 3 other teams that have lost a series against the Rockies this year?
Yeah, it's Miami, Washington, and Minnesota are the only 3.
We're hoping to not be the 4th. We'll see that tonight. We'll talk about it tomorrow here on BK and Ferrario.